Fitzpatrick takes the snap, drops back, lobs it back right corner. Decker! He's got it! Touchdown! Eric Decker scores! And the Jets have won it in overtime!
This is the Jet Take with Ben Blessington and Kyle Fahey.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jet Take, a Friday edition. I'm your host, Ben Blessington, and with me is, you know him as the man who has the voice of an 11-year-old girl, Kyle Fahey. Kyle, how you doing, man?
You can catch me outside, though. You ain't going to do about it.
Okay, Kyle. So it's been a pretty busy week for the Jets, considering it's January. The right guard, Brian Winters, who is maybe one of the few bright spots of our offensive line, and a guy who started out his Jets career wasn't doing very well, drafted by Idzik, and over the years has actually improved into a pretty solid right guard. So that was a key signing for McCagnon, and I'm really happy he did it this early on in the process. We don't have to deal with trying to compete with other teams in free agency. The other big news is Woody Johnson is officially Donald Trump, who is now the President of the United States, which is frightening, is the UK ambassador for Donald Trump, as I said. So that means day-to-day operations. We still don't know what exactly the power structure will be. We know I read the Manish Mehta article about what this means for the Jets, and basically it said Woody Johnson wasn't in the Jets building every day. It was pretty much McCagnon and Todd kind of just ran the show and communicated by themselves. But I would expect either Johnson's relative, his brother Christopher Johnson, to take over, the ownership deals, which would mean, when there's a dispute between Mack and Bowles, he would be the deciding factor, or if they needed to do a coaching change. The other thing he could do is he could try to bring in an outside source like a Bill Parcells, similar to what the Jaguars just did in bringing in Tom Coughlin as the head of their football operations. The Jets could bring in an outsider like that. Maybe, McCagnon's guy, Charlie Casserly or Ron Wolf, but whoever. But we'll learn more about that in the coming weeks. And then officially, Denard Wilson, the secondary coach, we talked about him last week, was officially announced as the secondary coach. And we misreported Clint Hurt, who was initially reported, done deal, going to be the outside linebackers coach for the Jets. That was never announced by the team, and apparently it might not happen. They're still working it out. It still could happen, but that is not a done deal.
No. He got hired by the Seahawks to be their defensive line coach.
Well, never mind then. Kyle's a little more up to date on the Northwest sports teams. Considering
you are.
I probably should know that, considering I'm a Blazer fan and live in Portland.
You failed.
So anyways, you can follow us at the Jet Take on Twitter. That's probably the best place to get in contact with us. We're very close to 700 followers, so I think we should hit that before next episode. So we're pretty excited about that. And we're on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, any sort of podcatcher you can think of, and again, any sort of social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We have all sorts of stuff. And on YouTube, we'll be doing some more stuff with that, because I think that's a good way to get our content out there, maybe some highlight videos and some, minor analysis, and break it all down. All right, Kyle, well, let's get into some Jets talk. I think this week, let's talk a little bit about the QBs, because behind you on your little whiteboard there, we have a nice he perks up. We have a nice photo or nice writing of all the quarterbacks. My top quarterback is DeShone Kizer. It's been for a while now. And this past week, Kyle, I did a film review of his game against Michigan State that happened this year. I'll be doing more film reviews for him and all the other main quarterbacks. And so we'll probably go play by play, for each quarterback. So for this game, I broke down every single play that DeShone Kizer had. I saw some good stuff and some bad stuff. Before I get into what I like and don't like about DeShone Kizer, Kyle, let's hear your take on the quarterbacks. Start with DeShone Kizer, and then you can open it up to all the rest of your quarterbacks.
Well, then, as you mentioned, I have a whiteboard behind me, and for those who aren't fortunate enough to see my beautiful face and the whiteboard behind me, I have my quarterback rankings. I finished them about an hour ago, and DeShone Kizer is my number 3rd or 3 rated quarterback on this year's draft. My takes from him: he's an extremely talented individual. He's got a bright future in the NFL. I do think he's going to need some coaching. What I see with him is inconsistency and predetermined routes, something you would see from like a rookie in an NFL system. And I think that's his biggest flaws. I do think that's definitely changeable. I do think he can improve. But right now, that's got him at number 3 in my book.
Well, that was almost straight out of my I know you haven't watched too much of DeShone Kizer film yourself. Hey, we talked about it. You have not watched too much of his games. You watched a little bit of the Army game or something. Yes, so if we will make sure to retweet the link where it has the entire film breakdown. But to start, yeah, my issues with DeShone Kizer are well, actually, let's start with the good stuff. I think that's probably easier. I think he played. A lot of people are knocking him for Notre Dame finishing 4-8 or whatever they finished, and I knocked the rest of the team. Watching this game and the other games I've watched, I'll make sure to do more film reviews. The offensive line is putrid. The defense is maybe the worst I've ever seen. I mean, there was a point in the game. I think the Notre Dame was down 8-15, and when they got the ball back, they were down like 8-36. And I was like, what just happened? Like, DeShone hadn't taken a snap yet. The playmakers around him are subpar. I think they have some talented receivers and stuff, but they're not really getting open on themselves. So DeShone Kizer is really the only really great part about this team, and everything else is pretty bad. So I don't knock him for that. I think he has excellent pocket awareness. Having to deal with the Notre Dame line will make the Jets' offensive line, if he was ever drafted by us, seem good. So that is a positive. And then the other things I like, I mean, I think he has great accuracy. He obviously has amazing arm strength. There was a point where he bombed it, I think, 65 yards or something, and it was Aaron Rodgers-esque. Hit the guy in stride. Unfortunately, the wide receiver dropped it.
That's actually my comparison for him. So, Aaron Rodgers.
If your comparison for DeShone Kizer is Aaron Rodgers, how the hell is he your third-rated QB? My comparison for Mitch Trubisky is a combination of Blake Bortles and Mark Sanchez, and yet your comparison for DeShone Kizer is freaking Aaron Rodgers, and he's third? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to put up Aaron Rodgers' things, but when I watch him play, I see a young Aaron Rodgers coming out of Cal. That's why I said DeShone Kizer's got a bright future in the NFL, but he needs some coaching. And, Mitch Trubisky.
I would take a young Aaron Rodgers any day. He's the best. Okay, besides how trash this take is.
In your opinion.
In everybody's opinion.
No, actually not at all.
You think there are other people that think DeShone Kizer compares to Aaron Rodgers, but then therefore they have him as their third-rated QB? You would have to have Mitch Trubisky as Joe Montana and Deshaun Watson as maybe Cam Newton.
I didn't say Deshaun Watson was my second.
Oh yeah, Patrick Mahomes is your second. So you have to go. Joe Montana is Mitch Trubisky, Patrick Mahomes is Brett Favre, and then maybe DeShone Kizer could be Aaron Rodgers and be rated third. Kyle, that is such a horrible take. We'll
Mitch
talk about that.
Trubisky I have compared to Matthew Stafford, and Patrick Mahomes I'm still determining.
I would still take a young Aaron Rodgers over Matthew Stafford any day. So maybe you should work on that comparison. But hold on, let me finish this DeShone Kizer thing. So obviously, great arm strength. Pinpoint accuracy at times, has very good pocket awareness, and his athleticism. He doesn't look to run first. He is a throw-first QB, and if the play breaks down, specifically with that horrible offensive line, he'll look to run, and he can make plays with his legs. The things I don't like is occasionally have a weird errant throw that just isn't even close. Maybe 2 or 3 times in a game.
Josh Freeman-esque.
Out of like 40 throws, maybe 3 of them will be like just hitting the dirt or sideline. Kind of just, errant throws. As Kyle mentioned, something I pointed out, Notre Dame's offense, it looked a lot of times it was a one-read offense. He knows where he's going before he throws or before he snaps the ball. So he'll snap and he'll just look right at his wide receiver for maybe 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and then if the guy clearly isn't getting open, then he'll go through the rest of his reads. There are times where he does go through multiple reads like a regular NFL quarterback, and he'll dart up the defense, but for the most part, read offense. And so those are my concerns. And then actually another positive is his toughness. He took a lot of hits. All right, so I think DeShone Kizer does need some time though before he can be great. I do think he could come in day one and still be good. In order to be great from his first snap, I think he would need a few weeks sitting on the bench. Let's say he came out last year and the Jets drafted him. I think he could have been ready by that Baltimore game or something. Just a few weeks of just getting into the NFL mindset. But he is my number 1 rated quarterback. I've compared him He's kind of a mix. I've compared him to Dak Prescott, who obviously would not have been as good if he was not on the Cowboys with Ezekiel Elliott and that offensive line. But I think that is an accurate comparison because it's not like Dak Prescott would be a bad QB if he wasn't on that team. He just wouldn't be as good, Pro Bowl level. But Kyle's making a face. But he was hitting guys in stride. Dak Prescott is a very good quarterback and piece to build around. So I think he's kind of like that. There are times where he displays Cam Newton athleticism, where he'll quarterback draw from the 5-yard line. There are times where he'll display Aaron Rodgers' arm strength. But overall, I'd probably compare him to Dak Prescott. I also see a little bit of Steve McNair, kind of a throwback, with his combination of athleticism and arm strength. But always looks to pass first. So those are kind of my comparisons. Kyle, let's really quickly talk about the rest of the QBs, and then we'll move into some different topics. My comparison, as I said, for Mitch Trubisky is maybe Blake Bortles, so maybe a little Mark Sanchez in there. I say Mark Sanchez because he almost looks like scared when he's in the pocket, like very I don't know how to verbalize this, but like nervous. You can tell he's like, you gotta go through all my reads. So he doesn't have like a calming presence when he's in the pocket. And then Blake Bortles, because I think one, the way he throws the ball, the arm strength, just a whole combination of his athleticism. I think that's kind of where he falls. I don't think he'll be that good. Deshaun Watson, I see a little bit of Ryan Tannehill and prime Colin Kaepernick in there. I think he can be good. I worry about Deshaun succeeding in the NFL. He has a smaller frame than most guys. However, you never know. He clearly has the it factor, and he's clearly made some impressive throws. But again, I think he definitely needs some time. So Colin Kaepernick, Ryan Tannehill mixed there, and finally Patrick Mahomes. I'm not a huge fan of Patrick Mahomes. I think a lot of people have fallen in love with his, some of the amazing plays he's made. A lot of people will see, look up his highlight tape and see all these, where he's running back and throwing, a 40-yard bomb, under pressure or whatever, and everybody's, so amazed by it. But if you watch the tape, he has a lot of bad plays. He's not just all of these amazing plays. So for Patrick Mahomes, I think I'm a little concerned about him succeeding in the NFL. I think the Texas Tech offense was not like the pro offense. I think he obviously has great arm strength and athleticism and stuff, but I worry about him. He tends to, take when the pressure comes, he tends to take his eyes off downfield and look to run. So I don't know how good Patrick Mahomes will be in the NFL. However, given that he has the natural, God-given talents of arm strength and speed and athleticism, actually doesn't have that much speed, but athleticism and arm strength, I think he can be a solid quarterback again if he sits. But DeShone Kizer definitely most pro-ready. Then I'd probably give it to Watson as a guy who also, if he had some time, could be very good. Then I would probably go Mahomes, just based off that natural talent. He is kind of I don't think he's a guy who could just come in and play, but he has so many talents that he can potentially be the best quarterback in this draft. And then, but he would take the longest to develop. And then fourth, I have Mitch Trubisky. I don't think he's going to be that good in the NFL. Just an average career backup, average starter. I don't think he's anything special. So those are my rankings. Kyle, anything else you'd like to touch on the QB topic, or should we move on? That was a long time of me talking.
Yeah. You said Mitch Trubisky. You called him panicked in the pocket. I think that's what you said, or scared. Most scouts and I agree that that's his biggest trait for the NFL level. That he's very calm in the pocket. He's very good under pressure, and that he makes fantastic throws under pressure. And we've seen it time and time again on his film. So I would like to disagree with that there. I think you're pretty spot on about Patrick Mahomes. He's going to need some coaching. What I will say about all of these guys, the top 5 quarterbacks right now, and such as a Davis Webb, who's a senior and can't come back, they all should have stayed, honestly. Right now, I think they're capitalizing on the weak class.
Whoa. Watson, first off, I don't even know if he could stay.
He's a junior.
Okay. First off, Watson should not stay. This is my argument also for him not playing.
He would have lost the job. So
whoa.
He came out.
No, he would not have lost the job, Kyle.
Yeah. No, they have a 5-star recruit coming in who's significantly better.
Kyle, okay. Most of the guys that come in to these top teams like Clemson, Ohio State are 5-star recruits. USC, no. USC a couple of years ago got 5-star recruit Max Brown, and they didn't start him till this year. He was horrible. 5-star recruiting means nothing. They would definitely stick with their senior quarterback who's taken them to 2 back-to-back national championships. was a horrible point. No, but my reason, he should definitely not come up. His stock can never be any higher. He just beat Alabama, the best team in all of college football, in the national championship with a last-second touchdown, and he had a great game. Like, you can't ask for a better, end note. That's why you shouldn't play in the Senior Bowl. Besides getting injured, one, he had a long season. He's probably tired, and two, I mean, maybe he throws a pick and his stock goes down a little bit. No, Deshaun Watson definitely should go out. Trubisky, I agree with you. Trubisky, I agree with you. Should have stayed. Trubisky, I agree with you. He should have stayed. He's a little bit too much like Blaine Gabbert for my liking, only playing like 11 or 12 games and then going into the NFL. Kaiser, I think he realized that the Notre Dame program wasn't gonna succeed next year or the years after. I think he was a quarterback last year, obviously, because he had to be. But part of it is because, people expected Notre Dame to be good, and obviously they were not. So I think he's just leaving. And yes, maybe he's capitalizing on a weaker class. And then Mahomes, I think, again, his stock can't get much higher. I think a lot of people fall in love with his athleticism. Get him out of the Texas Tech offense as early as he can. The younger he is, the more likely a team will want to use him as their project because they don't want to take in a 25-year-old project or whatever because by the time he's ready, he's nearing 30. But, I think he's 21 or 22, comes in, sits on the bench for a few years or a year, and then by 23 or 24, he's there. He's the team's starting quarterback. But, I think all the QBs have their, their pros and their cons. But as far as Kyle's saying, what I mean by Trubisky being I should have reworded that. He is calm in the pocket when he has time and stuff. But I'm saying, and although you said under pressure, from what I've watched, and I've only watched 2 or 3, games of every single snap he took, when the pressure comes, he gets scared. You can see it in his body language. He'll roll out and hit an errant throw, or he'll try to pull a Russell Wilson and do a little spin move in the pocket and turn the back to the I don't think he has great pocket awareness. So maybe calm. Maybe he does have that calming presence. But as far as the pocket awareness, I don't think he is as talented as some other QBs in the draft. All right, Kyle. So before we move on, let's talk a little bit about to the callers. Let's talk a little bit about this whole Woody Johnson leaving. As I mentioned earlier, we have no idea what this means for the Jets. Obviously, we'd like to, them to bring in a president of football operations to take over for Woody while he's gone for 4 years, or let's just have Woody sell it to Gary Vaynerchuk or whatever, and we could just have a new ownership. But as far as what this means for the Jets, I think it shouldn't change too much. It's still Mack and Bowles who are making the football decisions. I think you might see a little more patience, with them, with Woody in the UK. And maybe a more professionally run organization. So, Kyle, what do you think this is? We talked about it a little earlier, but in detail, what do you think this whole Woody Johnson going to Europe is going to – what impact do you think it's going to have on the Jets 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020 season?
Well, I think you're missing 4 years then, Ben. But
what? That was 4 years, 2017.
It was a joke. It was a joke on an 8-year term, Ben.
Sorry, I was a little slow on that one.
Okay, democracy.
Dude, he would be 70. The tunnel would be 74, and I don't even know if he's going to last one. But whatever, that's topic for a different day, Kyle.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah. It shouldn't mess with anything, honestly. If Woody Johnson was smart, but I know he's not. So it will screw up everything. He'll try to make himself, still the main decider on things and try to be the guy. I don't really care what the Mishmanetta report says. I can't trust that dude as far as I can throw him, and I probably can't throw him very far. So the food chain's probably going to be Todd Bowles, Mike McCagnon, whoever the head of football operations will be, either Chris Johnson, Neil Glant, or an outsider like you said. And then it will be Woody Johnson at the end of the day, getting that phone call at whatever time it is. The time zones are different there, so a lot of times when we need to make transactions, he may be sleeping. Maybe we can't pull the trigger on some of them because that may be the case with Woody Johnson. So it's probably going to screw everything up more than it is now, which is pretty hard to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't agree with the last point. It's probably going to screw everything up. I think the Steelers 8 years ago had a similar thing. Art Rooney passed it down to his son. But, Art Rooney II, I believe, is the guy who took over. He had been working in the organization, and then they promoted him. So I think the Jets, as far as who they have to be the guy who makes the decisions when Bowles and Mack have a dispute or they have to make a coaching change, I think he should probably stay within the organization unless he wants to bring in a Bill Parcells, or I don't think he should give ownership to Chris Johnson. I think he should just stick with Neil Glatt, as you said, or another guy in the upper management of that team, and just let him, let McCagnon and Bowles handle the football decisions, but let that guy do the job he's already doing, and handle disputes, as we said. All right, really quickly, Kyle, we're going to go to the callers in a couple minutes here. Few questions for you. Who stays? Who goes? Brandon Marshall versus Eric Decker. Who should stay and why?
I think it should be Brandon Marshall, but at the end of the day, it will probably be Eric Decker. Why?
Why? Yeah. Why do you think it should be Brandon? And
everybody
why do you think
wants
it's gonna be Eric.
Yeah. Well, I think Eric Decker will stay because I believe he's a little bit cheaper than Brandon Marshall. He's also younger, and he didn't have, I want to call it, the disability of Ryan Fitzpatrick for this year thrown to him because he was injured sitting at home. Fans can't really jump on him when he's at home injured like they did Brandon Marshall. When you really put it in perspective, Brandon Marshall caught half the balls he did in 2015, and he was still able to put up very close to 800. And I believe Brandon Marshall in 2015 put up like 1,400 something around there. So really, half the balls for half the yards. It makes sense. How much of a decline is there? I get it. Maybe speed, maybe a little toughness. We also saw the Todd Bowles diet, obviously stupidity at all levels there for him doing what he did. Same goes with Lorenzo Molden, so I guess they just need to stop listening to Todd Bowles. But I guess that's a topic for another time. So I think it will be Brandon Marshall just because of his age and, the media portrayal of him at this point in time and the quote-unquote cancer he is in the locker room, even though, he wanted his guy back, and I don't blame him for that. Fitz had a good year. There's no way he could have known that Fitz was going to come in and do what he did, and the fact that Sheldon tried to put it all on him for that, I think Sheldon's the cancer in the locker room, and so far in the past 5 years, he's been the main cancer off the field. That's just my take on it, but if Eric Decker...
Well, okay, I'm gonna cut you off here. First off, none of us know who is the quote-unquote cancer of the locker room.
Well,
none of us are in the locker room. So I think it's unfair for us to say, well, yeah, Sheldon's the cancer in the locker room. He's the cancer off. Sheldon, we have no idea what the dispute is. First off, Brandon Marshall led the league in drops, and although his QB is horrible, I still believe that in weeks 1 and 2, Eric Decker Kyle perks up and tries to go look this up. Eric Decker was still producing at a high level, and Ryan Fitzpatrick only really started to really struggle during that KC game where Eric Decker had to go out because the shoulder was bothering him. So let's take a step back. Eric Decker was producing at a high level at the beginning of this year, was producing at a very high level last year, was producing at a high level with Mike Vick and Geno Smith as his quarterbacks. I believe Eric Decker is a very good wide receiver for a team, especially who has a question mark at QB. He is a guy who gets open constantly, is a safe pair of hands. Now, Brandon Marshall is the number one wide receiver. Yes, obviously. I don't think they should keep both of them because when you look, you have Robbie Anderson and Quincy Enunwa and Sharon Peake and even guys like Jalen Marshall and Devin Smith. Are you really going to have Robbie Anderson being your 4th or 5th string wide receiver? The point is that the Jets are not a win-now team. They're a team that needs to build for the future. They're a team that can maybe succeed in 2 years or 3 years from now and maybe make a playoff run. But so you want those guys, the guys like Robbie Anderson and Sharon Peake, and Enunwa even, to have the experience and reps of starting for a few years. We all believe that Enunwa can be a number 1 wide receiver in this league, or even number 2 wide receiver in this league. And we all believe Robbie Anderson can be a starter. At least I'll speak for myself, actually, because I don't know what you guys feel. I feel Robbie Anderson can be a starter in this league. I feel Sharon Peake can be a starter in this league. I feel Quincy Enunwa can. So why don't we start them now when we know that the Jets aren't going to be very good? Now, they still could be, and these 3 wide receivers, when they got their chance in Week 17 versus Buffalo, they looked very good. But I still think the Jets should keep 1 veteran. For me, I think Decker is more productive. Marshall's older, more expensive, and again, as I said, led the league in drops. And we've already seen this combination of wide receivers. However, I think what Marshall does provide is he does take away attention from the defenses. Guys like Enunwa weren't being covered as much because they would double team Brandon Marshall because they knew that was his favorite thing. And I also think that Quincy Enunwa is always being said, well, he's the next Brandon Marshall. I do see Quincy Enunwa possibly being the next Eric Decker, maybe more of a slot guy. However, that's to be determined. However, if I'm just going to make the determination based off youth, price, and effectiveness, catching the ball and stuff, I'll go with Eric Decker. I'll take my chances as Enunwa as the number one receiver and Decker as the 2, and Robbie in the slot. But we'll probably play Decker in the slot and Robbie outside or whatnot, whatever combination it is. I think Decker is definitely the more productive of the 2. However, I know it will hurt when you see the Brandon Marshall released by the Jets, and it'll be the whole fire because we love Brandon.
That's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
really bad.
the fans love Brandon, and Brandon loves New York, but the thing that we've learned, especially from the Ryan Fitzpatrick scenario, is you can't make football decisions based off of emotion. They have to be purely on paper and on the field decisions. And I believe Eric Decker is definitely the superior of the 2, but that's just my opinion. However, I won't be mad either way. However, again, if Mike Maccagnan and Todd Bowles feel the warmth on their seats and they want to try to make a push, maybe they'll keep both of them and add some guys in free agency and try to push forward for this year. But if the Jets want to build a winner like the Cowboys or the Raiders or the Packers, a sustainable success, they're going to have to move on from at least one of the 2 veteran wide receivers. And maybe both. You never know. Maybe both. And I will say, before we're going to go to the college right now, I will say Week 17 versus Buffalo, they were still very solid wide receivers with Enunwa, Anderson, and Peake starting. I mean, they were getting open and doing the job. All right, Kyle, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple things. I don't really like the term rebuild for the Jets because I don't think we have to. I think, we sign 1 or 2 guys and we draft well, and this team is right back where we were 2 years ago. And, when I say 1 or 2 players...
Who are you signing? So who are you signing?
That's what I was about to say. When I say 1 or 2 players, I mean Tyrod Taylor. We need to go throw some money at him.
One or 2 players is going to fix the offensive line, the secondary, the linebackers.
I also said we need to draft
even the defensive line at this point.
The defensive line doesn't need fixing. It needs an effort.
Oh, no, I know they don't need fixing. I'm just saying that they weren't playing very well. Kyle, okay, I'm going to let you get your point out, but one really quick thing here. I think this is a problem a lot of fans are struggling with, and even something that I've struggled with is like you just want your team to succeed. You look at it in the short term as a fan. You want your team to succeed this year. You want Christian Hackenberg to play this year. Generally as fans, we don't have patience. We know that the Jets are probably not going to win the Super Bowl. With Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. I mean, they could. Darrelle Revis. I don't think they're going to win it with this core. Why not rebuild, cut the dead weight, bring in guys who draft well, build a system where you can be a winner for 10, 15 years. You know what I'm saying? You want to build a team where you can win your division, you can go deep in the playoffs, you can win a Super Bowl, not just a one-year team that'll go 11-5 and exit in the first round of the playoffs. We want a sustainable winner. And so I agree with you that this Jets team doesn't need completely rebuilding when you have, as we mentioned, the receiver core. We like Bilal Powell. We have some pieces on the offensive line like Carpenter and Winters. The defensive line is obviously set, and some promising guys, especially in the linebacking core. But there are holes on this team, Kyle, and so we shouldn't look at it as just, all right, well, let's just sign all these free agents. I agree that Tyrod Taylor would be a good signing because he's 26 or 27. He is a guy you can actually build around. But as far as free agents, most of them are not that young and are not a quarterback. So I think the Jets should be careful spending their money. I think they should invest in younger guys like Taylor and even younger guys that aren't as proven. Melvin Ingram is proven, but I think they should target Melvin Ingram. They should target Tyrod Taylor. Those would be guys I'd be interested in bringing in, even though those could be, win-now moves since they are big free agents. But I'm not going to go in and try to attack the older veterans free agents that are going to be hot commodities like Eric Berry and whatnot, or even guys like what's his face? Why can't I remember? Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I was thinking of corners and Stephon Gilmore. Even him, I wouldn't bring in. I would bring in a guy like A.J. Bowie or Tremaine Johnson, guys who are on the up and up, and even though they might be pricey and stuff. So that's my philosophy. And yes, maybe the Jets will win, but I don't think they shouldn't keep guys like David Harris and Nick Mangold and Brandon Marshall.
I agree.
Even Darrelle Revis to an extent. because I mean those guys are getting up there in age, and so I think the Jets need to play the young guys, and at some point those young guys are going to have enough experience under their belt where they'll be good. So let's go to the callers. Our first caller of the night is Justin. Justin, you are unmuted. How's it going, man?
What's up, guys? How are we doing tonight?
We're doing good. And Justin, before we get into this Jets talk, I have to ask, what was about this whole bench Dak Prescott for Tony Romo argument?
All right. I don't even want to get into this.
No, I'm not trying to start a fight. I'm just asking.
I lie.
For people who don't know. Well, I get his point, and he wasn't wrong because the Cowboys didn't win the game. However, Justin said after the Cowboys were down at like 3-21 that the Cowboys should bench Dak Prescott for Tony Romo because he said we all know they're not going to win this game with Dak. And then I tweeted at him when Dak brought him back to the tie game 28-28, with the screenshot of that. Because, Dak had brought him back into the game. Dak was, obviously Ezekiel Elliott helps, and then the defense made some nice plays. But Dak Prescott was the guy who led him down the field. So, Justin, really quickly, before we talk Jets, what was your whole argument? Was it just that the Cowboys weren't going to win the game in general? Or
Dak was struggling in the beginning of the game. I mean, he started too late. I mean, they were down too much, and he got hot too late. And I mean, if they put Romo was going in sooner or later because they needed a spark. That was my whole argument.
At the time of that tweet, I can see the argument. But for me, I mean, it ended up being true that Dak was the one who provided the spark, or at least he helped it in providing the spark. And the other thing is, if you bench Dak Prescott and the Cowboys go on to lose the game, 6-40 or whatever, you're going into the offseason, a great year where you only lost a few games. You're going into the offseason with now the quarterback position is uncertain because now you benched your young QB for Tony Romo in the last game of the year. You know what I'm saying? I think it was the smart move to stick with Dak, ride him out to the end, go into the offseason and reboot. But he ended up bringing him back in the game. Anyways, Justin, that's enough Cowboys talk for one night. Let's talk a little bit about the Jets. We'll go into our first topic of the night, which we talked about before, is the whole Brandon Marshall versus Eric Decker. Justin, where do you side in this argument? Which receiver of the two should the Jets keep for next year, or do you think they should keep both or get rid of both?
I mean, I think the Jets should definitely hang on to Decker. Marshall, he was a problem in the locker room this year, and he's more cap space is available getting rid of him. Although I do see them hanging on to him, which I definitely don't want to do at the number he's at right now. But Decker coming off 2 surgeries is a concern for me. He's going to miss time in the beginning of the year. But, I mean, Eric Decker is still a leader. And, I mean, he was very productive in the beginning of the year, and the offense did miss him. Has mentioned the Kansas City game, it was all downhill from there when he wasn't playing for the rest of the season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's like, if Decker, if we get word from the doctor, I think that the Jets, before they make this decision, to talk to the doctors and Eric Decker, figure out where Decker is, how far along he is in the process of his recovery. Because if it's one of those things where the doctors say this is a chronic issue, it's not going to go away, I don't know if he'll ever be the same, then I agree. Let's stick with Brandon Marshall. But when Decker is on the field...
I disagree with that. I don't think we should stick with Brandon Marshall regardless.
No. I think we should stick with Eric Decker. I'm on that side. I'm saying if we get word that Eric Decker's injury is chronic and he'll never really recover fully, that he won't be the same, then I said we should stick with Brandon Marshall. But I think Decker is more productive on the field for a team that let's say Bryce Petty starting, for a team that has a young quarterback, an inexperienced quarterback, and not very good quarterback. Decker is the better receiver. He gets open. He has great hands. He's great on third downs, etc. Brandon Marshall, where his value comes in, is obviously he's a number 1 wide receiver, and he frees up guys like Enunwa and stuff with defenses double covering him. Now, my next question is do you see Enunwa being...
I disagree with that. If there's something wrong with Decker, I'd get rid of both of them.
So you're getting rid of Brandon Marshall regardless?
Yeah, Brandon Marshall's gone regardless. I'm getting rid of him. I mean, this is a rebuilding year, and Brandon Marshall we definitely should get rid of him. The question should be, should we keep Decker or not? That should really be the question. I mean, and I would consider even drafting a wide receiver this year.
Yeah, I mean,
get rid of both of them.
Yeah, if we get rid of both of them, maybe they can consider drafting receiver later in the draft. But receiver is one of those few positions on the Jets where they actually have a solid core of young guys. So I don't think the Jets should draft receiver this year.
I think they should let the young receivers develop.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so my question for you is: do you see Quincy Enunwa developing into more of a number one wide receiver like a Brandon Marshall, or do you see him more of a slot guy like Eric Decker? Because a lot of people have been comparing him to Brandon Marshall, but when I see him have his best moments, it's coming out of the slot, going over the middle, making those tight end plays. Don't you think that maybe Enunwa plays a little more similar to Eric Decker's style, or do you think he's more of a Brandon Marshall?
Well, I mean, that's actually a tough question because I do see him being very similar on the slant routes as Eric Decker, but, I mean, he's built a big body and a physical body like Marshall, so, I mean, but we haven't really seen him take on that role. That's why I think we should get rid of Marshall and see if Quincy can take on that number one role and see how he handles, like, fade routes in the red zone and things like that.
Yeah, and so let's move on. Another similar question. Muhammad Wilkerson versus Sheldon Richardson. I think, do you agree with me first off, do you agree with me that the Jets should at least get rid of one of them and build around either Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson, and then Leonard Williams on the other side? So do you think the Jets should get rid of either Muhammad or Sheldon?
I think the Jets should get rid of Sheldon.
Yes. Okay, so that was my question, is which one? I agree with you. I think Sheldon probably should be the one to go because of his off-field issues and his productivity on the field. Now, do you believe that Muhammad Wilkerson will return to full strength next year? This is a question that's split. Some people don't think that Muhammad Wilkerson will be back to his normal self. They think once he got paid, he checked out. I'm of the firm belief that, look, I think he was playing injured last year. So what's your view on this?
I think he was playing. Yeah, I think he's going to return to old form because, I mean, he was playing through injury, and the last game you saw versus Buffalo, he showed signs of being last year back to form. I mean, he was getting after the quarterback the last game versus Buffalo. I know it was E.J. Manuel, but still, he looked like he was getting back to form, and that was the full year recovery from the injury the first time versus the Bills. So, I mean, I think Muhammad Wilkerson's actually going to have a bigger impact than most people think he's going to have next year.
Yeah. All right. So let's see if Kyle is alive. Kyle, you there?
Yeah. I just spoke then.
You're having some connectivity issues. All right. Fire away, Kyle.
Yeah, I agree with him. I think that was pretty evident in the Buffalo game. We saw Muhammad Wilkerson at what seemed to be 100% according to his doctors, and it made a difference. 1.5 sacks, I think 4 tackles. That's something we hadn't seen from Muhammad Wilkerson the whole year previously. So I definitely think it was injury. I question effort with some guys on the team. Muhammad Wilkerson, never really been that type of guy, and I did expect him to be. That's why, I was in favor of giving him money. Because I thought he deserved it, and I thought he'd given us 100% every time. Towards the beginning of the year and the middle of the year, I didn't think that, but, knowing what the doctors say now, and, the rumors that were floating around, and then what I was told by, individual who had talked to his significant other about the injury, I mean, it all adds up, really, that he probably shouldn't have been playing a good portion of the first part of the year. And he went ahead and did it. He got cleared, and, I think the stats showed that he shouldn't have. But the last game was definitely good enough to prove to me that he's back to 100%.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Justin, before we move on, let's talk a little bit about the Brian Winters re-signing, and more specifically the offensive line, because I think this is something that a lot of Jets fans are neglecting, and it's a position the Jets have neglected for years. How would you want the Jets to fix this offensive line? Obviously, Clady is due $13 million or something crazy next year. So Clady's got to be gone. Yeah, obviously Carpenter and Winters should stay because they're two young guys who are doing well.
I mean, that was a good signing to lock up Winters. I mean, you're going to build around Winters and Carpenter right now. I mean, get Mangold, he should be gone unless he takes a pay reduction, but I'd rather just get rid of him, sign Wesley Johnson, make him the center, Brandon Shell, and then I guess you got to find a left tackle. with either you draft one or find one in free agency, but that's going to be pricey too. But that's how I would go about it.
So you're putting your faith in Brandon Shell and Wesley Johnson, because I happen to agree with you that the Jets should you play these young guys. But so how confident are you in Brandon Shell and Brandon Shell and Wesley Johnson's ability to come in next year, play 16 games, and do a good job?
I mean, it's not really about next year. I mean, just see how they develop. I mean, Brandon Shell, the games he played, he looked pretty good. So why not give him a chance to see if he could be the full-time starter and see how he looks next year?
I agree with that. Kyle, what's your take on this? Kyle's
Sorry.
Kyle had some
think it's
connectivity
connection.
issues.
Yeah, if I heard it right, he said, I think he said either draft or sign a left tackle. Really looking at the left tackle class for next year, it's not that great. Probably the best one's Andrew Litworth, and I believe he's like 30-something. Yeah, wow, 35. So I don't know if I really want to sign him. And, looking at the left tackle class in this year's draft, it's down between Cam Robinson and Ryan Ramczyk. And, if you're looking for a real road grader, you go Ryan Ramczyk. But if you're looking for the athletic guy, you go Cam Robinson. So I guess that's just going to be the Jets' forte there. Don't know if they could come in and start day one. Hopefully they could as first-round picks. There are some flaws in both of them. But, good coaching can fix that up. And I think our offensive line coach has proven that, he's turned around James Carpenter's career. He's turned around Brian Winters' career. Reno Giacomini wasn't absolutely horrendous this year like he was the year before that. So I guess we're doing a good job on the offensive line coaching staff.
Yeah, Kyle had a little bit of some connectivity issues there, but I think we got the gist of that. Now, Justin, before we let you go, really quickly, what do you think about the offensive coordinator position? Still, nobody has filled that role. When do you think that will happen? And again, I think we asked you this last week, but has anything changed? Who do you want to be the Jets' new offensive coordinator? Some guys want an experienced guy who's done the job before, and others, like me, want a young, up-and-coming assistant, because I think that's the best chance to get a solid offensive coordinator. So who are you targeting?
Yeah.
When do you think it will happen, and what type?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who we're going to end up with, to be honest. This is every vacancy is getting filled. I mean, I don't know who we're going to get. But I like a young guy.
Yeah, me too. I think the guy from Kansas City, co-offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, would be, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but would be the ideal target. I think he's one of those guys that has actually done a good job in KC. He was the QB coach, so he has experience working with quarterbacks. His dad, weird connection. His dad was Todd Bowles' high school football coach, and Matt and Todd worked together on the Philadelphia Eagles staff. So Matt and Todd are friends. Maybe that can persuade Matt to leave
I saw that.
Kansas City. Yeah, maybe that can persuade Matt to leave Kansas City and get his own gig as an offensive coordinator. The problem is, will the Chiefs block it? That's the one thing I'm concerned about. But he's a young guy. He's an up-and-coming guy. Did a good job this year. He's worked with young QBs, and has a friendship with Todd Bowles. So I think he's probably the ideal target. Now, listen, Justin, we got a lot of callers on the line, so we're going to have to let you go. Really quickly, just give out all your Twitter information so our listeners can give you a follow.
I got a quick question for you guys. What would you do with David Harris?
I'll start. Kyle just decides to chime in now. I'll start. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it depends how you fill that role behind Darren Lee. If you think that Bruce Carter is coming back, because I don't think Aaron Henderson's coming back, then maybe you would cut David Harris because he's supposed to make $7 million this year. However, the Jets don't really have a young inside linebacker behind him, so maybe you do keep David Harris. But I'm not sure. What's your opinion on this?
I think they should if they're getting rid of all these guys and doing the rebuilding process correct, they should just get rid of him. You got guys like Jordan Jenkins. You still got Malden. You still got Lee. I mean, if you're going to do the rebuild, you might as well get rid of Harris too.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably better for the rebuild to just play the younger guys, similar to, cutting guys like Brandon Marshall. Maybe David Harris has a few more years or 1 or 2 more years of productivity, but at this point I think it'd be more helpful to play Darren Lee along with some rookie, whoever we bring in to replace it. Justin, it was great to hear from you. Give out your Twitter information.
At Justin2413. Yeah, and that's it.
All right, so we will make sure to tweet that out. Justin, thank you so much for calling in. We look forward to hearing from you.
All right, thanks, guys.
And that was Justin. Always a good call from him. Kyle, before we move on to the rest of the phone lines, let's finish up with our who stays, who goes. Darrelle Revis versus Buster Skrine. Kyle, who are you getting rid of? Are you getting rid of both of them, or are you keeping both, and why?
I'm getting rid of both of them because they're both overpaid idiots who either can't play anymore or get too many penalties.
Well, all right then. You don't think Skrine has any value being a veteran returning in the slot?
No. He's proven that he can't play slot pretty fairly. That's why he's constantly called for pass interference.
Kyle, that's just not true. What are you talking about? 2015, he played slot and he was great.
2015, but it wasn't.
Yeah, last year he was playing on the outside and he wasn't good. He wasn't playing slot corner last year because we didn't get another corner.
If you can't do every aspect of your position, then you're not good enough to
That
get
is
the
a
contract.
horrible take. Kyle, you wouldn't play...
You're telling me
okay,
he's worth
Kyle.
you're telling me he's worth the money.
Kyle, you wouldn't play LeGarrette Blount on you wouldn't put LeGarrette Blount on a halfback screen or a stretch play or something. The players have their specific strengths and stuff. Okay, you wouldn't put I'm trying to think of it on the fly. You wouldn't put like Dree Archer in the backfield on the 1 yard line. You know what I'm saying? There are certain situations and certain players that have their strengths. Skrine is not an outside corner. That was well established when we signed him. He is an elite slot. Well, actually, wasn't. He's a very good slot corner. And on the outside, he's not as good because he gets a little grabby, and that tends to lead to penalties.
You mean like 41 times or something?
Kyle, he still has value as a slot corner. So to say he if you can't do everything, then you're not valuable is just a bad point.
For that
Eric Decker isn't a very good number one receiver. But he still has value as a slot receiver.
That's why I think we should keep Brandon Marshall.
Okay. Wow. Oh, my God. This is ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous. Okay, so Rob Gronkowski, or actually, that's actually a good point. Jimmy Graham, not a very good blocker. The Seahawks should cut him, right? You're not going to respond?
No, they shouldn't cut him.
Okay, well, obviously, that's the whole point. All right, we're going to go ahead and bring on our next caller of the night.
He's involved into a fairly good blocker in front of Luke Wilson.
I'm not sure. This is Jay from NewYorkJetsFans.com. Hold on, I have to get a theme song ready. Here we go. This is Jay from NewYorkJetsFans.com. It's always a pleasure when he calls in, and let us ring in his call with an awesome theme song.
I'm
All right, well, we ended it a little early. Jay, how are you doing, man?
My boys, what's going on?
We're doing pretty good. I watched a little bit of your last night's New York Jets fans television with Alex Giaimo. How was that? How was that whole experience? Because that's a big, I guess you say, signing. I don't know how to word that, but she did a great job, and that was maybe my favorite episode.
It was a great episode. I can't wait to get her and Ed in the studio at the same time. Ed actually he wasn't feeling too well. He had to get some emergency dental work done. He had a messed up tooth. Face was all swollen. It was a mess. So couldn't have him in the studio yesterday. But I'm definitely looking forward to the next episode where we get all four of them going at the same time. We're building quite a panel over there on NYJF TV. So it's been a lot of fun working on it. Alex was amazing. I mean, she's it's funny because from people who haven't really seen the type of stuff that she's done all year. You get some comments sometimes from these ignorant people where they say, like, the Jets chick reporter and, she only has her job cute and all this stuff, which is, if you watch the episode last night, I mean, you really kind of understand that she really knows what she's talking about. I mean, she's not just a pretty face. She is very talented and very knowledgeable, and she was just coming with some straight fire last night. It was really, really interesting, being behind the camera and just watching it all unfold. I mean, it was just a pleasure to have her on board. We're looking forward to having her back. She's definitely going to be back on future episodes. she's a professional. She's definitely looking for a full-time job. So, NYJF TV is not going to be her full-time gig, but we're going to have a spot reserved for her on every episode. And anytime she wants to come in the studio, she'll always be welcome. It was just awesome having her here.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, sorry, Kyle.
When are you going to have us on the show, though? I mean, that's the real question here.
Kyle, if you're going to fly out to New York, then go ahead.
That's what I was going to say. You guys are a little far away. If you guys want to come out to Jersey, man, come on in the studio anytime. You're always welcome.
Well, you could always have phone calls on there. I'm sure we could figure that out. But anyway, Jay,
we've thought about that. We're going to try and figure out how to really accomplish that, because it's not like it's aired live, and it's kind of we edited it all together afterwards and everything. So, but we're actually going to be talking about going forward, for next season, doing like a Facebook Live. We were going to try and do that last night, but we were having some audio issues, so I couldn't do the audio and set up the Facebook Live at the same time. But going forward, we're going to do a live viewing of it, and as well, we're gonna do a more cleaned up, kind of patched up with graphics and everything, YouTube version that's going to be aired also on the homepage. So. It's definitely working on that going forward for the future. So, when we get that all set up, of course, you guys will be more than welcome to call in, and we'll get some live talk going on.
Yeah, that'd be great. And really quickly, Kyle, can you kick your dog out of your room?
Then shut up. Stop complaining.
Dude,
well,
just pick her up and put her in a different room.
Stop muting myself then, Ben.
Dude, put her in a different room. It's not that hard. What's your logic?
Because then she barks, bro. She's like
getting kinks out there, man.
Oh gosh, it's very annoying. He just won't kick her out of her room. Okay, if Kyle can get the dog to stop panting, I think we can actually talk some Jets. So Jay, let's talk some Jets. As I mentioned, we'll just start, I guess. Let's talk a little bit about the offensive coordinator vacancy. What type of offensive coordinator do you want the Jets to target? Obviously, they haven't had too much success in bringing one in. But, some guys want an experienced guy who's going to help the young QBs. I'm more of the mindset bringing in a young up-and-coming assistant because, let's face it, not many people want this Jets job. So I think the Jets probably have a better chance of getting a good offensive coordinator if they go with an up-and-coming positional coach instead of a guy who already has tread in his tires, because any big-time guy who's already been an offensive coordinator isn't going to want to come to the Jets. I think the only chance the Jets have is getting a guy who has never been an offensive coordinator before. But what's your view on this? What type of offensive coordinator do you want, and who would you prefer?
Well, there's a lot of challenges to go along with it, right? I mean, as it is right now, the Jets have to get permission just to talk to some, positional coaches that are already on other teams. So what they're really limited to is, and as you've seen, that's been a kind of an issue with the Eagles, and could even be an issue, with I forget his name on the Chiefs, but
Nagy or whatever his name is. I think that's how to pronounce it.
Exactly. So, you're looking at people who were either recently fired, whose contracts are up, or, college guys or anybody of that sort. It's a challenge, man. This is obviously not a desirable situation for really any coach, except that the only, desirable part about it is, and what makes it kind of like, why it was kind of a more difficult decision to bring Todd Bowles back, than just bringing him back is, a lot of people are looking at this as a job that could be, just a one-year position. If Todd Bowles gets fired, then the new coaching staff's going to want to bring in a new coordinator, I'm sure. And, the roster being what it is, no quarterback in place, it's a very likely scenario that, if the team has another one of these 4-12, 5-11, 6-10 type seasons, the whole coaching staff is going to be looking for a new job. So, I mean, it's a really tricky situation, but, between that factor and the fact that it's very difficult just to even get somebody in for an interview. So it's like, I don't even know where you go, man. I think that, there's two positive aspects of this job. The one positive is that there's going to be no pressure on whoever they bring in to really perform. If they do a great job, then they're like miracle workers, and if they, if they do a crappy job, then it's like, it's almost to be expected at this point. But the other positive aspect is that if you bring in a guy, let's just throw a name out there, like a Norv Turner type of guy or something, then they know that if they do a pretty good job and Todd Bowles gets fired, they could probably be the next man in line for the head coaching job. So if if somebody is looking to break into an organization and possibly take over as a head coach, then that's it could be desirable in that sense. But the only problem with that is that's how you start to get, factions and locker room, divides and stuff like that, splits, where the offense is fighting with the defense, and you get one guy, one voice. If you bring in a guy who has past head coaching experience or anything like that, then you run into the issue that, their voice may be, more widely accepted in the locker room than the voice of the head coach, and that's never a good thing. So I don't know, man. I really don't know where they go. It's very, very difficult at this point to figure out who is even in line to take this job over. It's very tricky. I can't even give you a name because, right now there really aren't any. I mean, everyone's kind of filled their head coaching, their coordinator positions. Guys are signing left and right, and we're like, when was the last time you even heard about anyone coming in for an interview? So it's like, it's a mess.
Yeah, most guys, I mean, it seems like any up-and-coming promising assistant is either A, asking the organization to block them from getting an interview, or the team is just, not allowing it. It seems like the Jets are just having a hard, as you mentioned, getting a hard time even getting interviews. I think the only guy we've had come in was Eric Studesville, or whoever the running back coach is, for the Broncos. All right, let's move on to it.
And he'd rather stay in Denver to be the running back coach of the worst running back stable in the NFL.
Well, we don't know that. That's what a lot of people are saying on Twitter and everything. But do we really know that he was even offered a job? I mean, he came in for an interview, but what if he interviewed poorly and he left and they never offered him a job, and then he went back to Denver because we don't know that he turned down.
Yeah, all he said, Kyle, was that
he wasn't given the Jets job.
Yeah, all he said was that he's going to return to Denver as the offensive. Like, it could have been the Jets' decision. But we'll find out. Let's move on to a happier topic instead of who will take this horrible job. Jay, I've heard you're not the biggest fan of Tyrod Taylor, and I'm a little confused by this. Kyle and I are both pretty pro Tyrod, but I don't think we'll have much of a shot at getting him. But if we did have the opportunity, I would hop on that in a second. Explain to us why you're not sold on the Tyrod Taylor bandwagon.
Okay, it's not that I'm not a fan of Tyrod Taylor. I think that he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think that he's, in the right situation, could be a pretty good quarterback. Do I think that he's an elite quarterback? Of course not. I think that my goals, as a Jets fan or as any fan of any team, in any sport, is always, you want to shoot as high as possible. You want the Tom Brady, the Ben Roethlisberger, the Matt Ryan, the Drew Brees, guys of that status. Like, you want to be able to draft that guy and have him play for your team. It's not unheard of. It happens all over the NFL for a million different teams. You saw, the Colts went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. The Chargers back in the day, they had Philip Rivers and Drew Brees on staff at the same time. You get you get situations where you draft a quarterback like what Seattle did, and what look at Dallas now, and then you have your quarterback in place for 12 years, 15 years, whatever it is. Quarterbacks that come available on the free agent market usually are there for a reason. Like, if Tyrod Taylor was the
stupidity in this case.
Yeah, but if Tyrod Taylor were the answer at quarterback, and you thought you were going to like, where would you place Tyrod Taylor in the rankings of starting quarterbacks from 1 to 32? Would he be in your top half, top 16? I don't think he would. I could find 16.
Yeah, I'd have him in my top 16.
He's definitely in my top 16.
He is. Okay, so I'm gonna post on.
We're not giving you any. We're not giving you anything, Jay.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But you know what I'm gonna do after I hang up? I'm gonna go find you the list of my top half of quarterbacks. And then we'll debate it on Twitter. I'm not gonna look it up right now, and I didn't do the research, and so I'm gonna name 16 right off the top of my head. But can we safely say he's definitely not in the top 10?
Yeah, I think probably no. For me, he probably falls between that 10 and 16 line. I'd probably say he's top 15 though, because look at his stats. I mean, he does not turn the ball over, which is huge. His athleticism is obviously a huge part of his game. He has tremendous arm strength. And the other thing is he improves your running game. The Bills, obviously, they have LaShawn McCoy and a good running head coach. They had a good running head coach in Rex Ryan. But I mean, the defenses were scared of Tyrod Taylor. So he improves your run game. He does not turn the ball over, and he's a competent quarterback. I mean, it seems like he's young. It seems exactly what the Jets need right now. And obviously, it's like, well, he's not going to win him a Super Bowl. Well, by the way, he could if the right
definitely could.
Joe Flacco and Trent Dilfer went to Super Bowls, but
yeah, but it's a different era nowadays. I mean, it's
right.
Joe Flacco is actually, I like Joe Flacco. I would say I would much rather have Joe Flacco than Tyrod Taylor, and I'd be surprised if anybody would argue that point with me. I mean,
right now.
Yes, right now. Next year, I would put Joe Flacco on my team and be psyched to have him before I'd have Tyrod Taylor.
I would be happy with Joe Flacco. I wouldn't complain about it.
I don't know, guys.
That's a coin flip for me. I think you look at Tyrod Taylor, and no offense to Joe Flacco, but he's had some pretty good weapons around him for years now. And Tyrod Taylor been working with Sammy Watkins for like 8 games, I think, like in total or something. I mean, it hasn't been long that they've really worked together. He's been working with guys like Robert Woods, Justin Hunter, I believe that's the other wide receiver. LaShawn McCoy did some really good things this year. I mean, Charles Clay has been a relatively bust when we're talking free agency. I mean, it's not like he's working with phenomenal talent, and he's still putting up numbers. He's still not turning the ball over, and he's still opening up many facets of the game. I mean, just picture Tyrod Taylor. Say we get rid of Brandon Marshall, Drew Brees, Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa, and Bilal Powell. Who are you going to cover? You're going to cover Bilal Powell coming out of the backfield where he can catch a pass, or you can run the option with Tyrod Taylor to run, or Robbie Anderson's 80 yards up the field, and Tyrod can deliver the ball with a zip, snap, and boom, touchdown. I mean, crap, we got the weapons. I mean, we just have to throw some money.
Boom, touchdown. All right.
Let me not get away from this point. Tyrod Taylor is a clear and obvious, without a doubt, unquestionable, unarguable, better quarterback than anything that we've had in quite a while. That's a fact. Okay.
Since Chad Pennington.
And so, well, I love Chad Pennington. I think that like the early years of Chad Pennington, God, if we could just get that back. But what my main point is, before, you want to draft a quarterback. That's in the NFL, the successful teams, they draft their quarterback and that quarterback grows up in their system. And the Jets, for whatever reason, since freaking, Joe Namath or, wherever you want to go, you say maybe a couple of years of Chad, they haven't been able to draft a quarterback, get him for 4 or 5 years on that rookie, salary, and let that guy grow, in the organization and everything with the guys around him, and then give out that $20 million a year deal after he's proven himself in the organization. I'm so hungry for that, and so are all these other Jet fans, that we're willing to accept, just like the middle of the road, number 16, number 18, 20 guy, because he's not like the worst quarterback in the league, like what, Geno Smith and Ryan Fitzpatrick and everything have been. It's like, we're so hungry for a good quarterback that we'll settle for. I don't want to settle for decent. I want to get a star. And it's like, eventually, you got to find that guy. So I just don't, like Tyrod Taylor, he's a pretty good quarterback. He just doesn't excite me on that level where, I want to go handing out $20 million to the guy to bring him into a team that's not even really ready to compete for a Super Bowl yet. So it's like, it just seems to be like, it's not that I'm against Tyrod, and I won't flip out if they sign him and say like that's a terrible signing. I'll understand the logic and the reason behind it. I'm just not on board with, thinking that that's the best route for them at this current time. So I mean, my take is ice cold. I realize it's not like I have some on either side of it where I'm so passionate that I'm like so for it or so against it. But it's just I'm just not excited over it, to be honest. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, see, Jay, I disagree with you, and I think we lost connection with Ben. That internet out in Oregon's terrible. But I completely disagree with you here. I don't think there's really a quarterback in this draft that's going to be the guy you're talking about. And we currently have the 6th pick, so this would be the time to do it if what you want to do with the Jets. I think Tyrod Taylor is a franchise quarterback. I really do. I think the Bills are making a huge mistake by letting him go. Still don't know why they are letting him go. So I think the Jets would be extremely lucky to get him. And I think really only look at it this way. He's got like 6 years of experience in the NFL, but only 2 years of really taking hits. Because if you remember, he was Joe Flacco's backup for the first part of his career. And, Rex Ryan loved him, brought him to Buffalo. Tyrod showed what he could do. The year that Tyrod and Samway were healthy together, the Bills were a fairly competitive team. They were in the hunt till the second to last week. I think they got eliminated by the Patriots or the Dolphins, and then obviously they eliminated us. But I think Tyrod, with above average weapons around him, is a quarterback who could lead you to football past week 17. I'll put it like that. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but I'm saying he could definitely get you to the playoffs.
Right, but isn't that the goal? I mean, don't we want to, before we start handing out $20 million, a year contracts to, or even $15 million a year contracts to quarterbacks? I agree. Could he get you? Will you be under him as your quarterback? Can you be a wild card contender? Sure. Are we gonna be better? Does that make us take us over the top, and now all of a sudden we're better than New England? I don't think so. So it's
I'm gonna put it this way.
We got to be realistic. I think we got to be realistic with where we're at as a team. Are we most likely going to be picking in the top 10 again next year? I think so. I think that's probably a real. So I'm not saying the whole wait until next year for the draft thing. That's silly. You don't even know who's going to be available, who's going to get injured, whose stock is going to rise and fall. So you want to take it year by year. I just don't know that we're not better off just kind of taking our lumps with whoever a quarterback next year. And, just continuing to build around him. And then, maybe you draft a quarterback, maybe somebody, comes loose in free agency, maybe somebody's available via trade. I think that, I think the Tyrod's a much better option, clearly, than, going out there and getting, a Cutler or a Romo or something ridiculous like that. So, I'm not, like I said, I'm not anti-Tyrod. I'm just not, fired up over Tyrod and saying we got to go get this guy. If we get him, I'll root for him. I'll be, but if we don't get him, it's not the end of the world.
Will you make shirts? Will you make shirts?
I probably will.
That's the true test of a good QB.
Shirt,
No, Ben, that's not true. He made a Bryce Petty shirt, and we know how that panned out.
Ready for Petty. Well, Jay, that actually leads into our next point. If it's not Tyrod, and I don't know what your stance is on drafting a QB, who do you think will be the Jets starting quarterback next year? Because I personally think it'll probably end up being Bryce Petty versus Christian Hackenberg in training camp, or we'll bring in some older veteran, and then whole QB competition. But who do you think will be the Jets QB next year?
I think you're probably on about the right train of thought. I think that it'll probably be, it'll be some combination of my opinion, some combination of Petty, Hackenberg, and some veteran that they bring in that's low cost kind of guy that go ahead and compete. It'll be off the top of my head. I mean, you could name one of any probably 10 guys that are going to be available that are complete garbage and have been passed throughout the league. I don't want to get Glennon is sort of intriguing to me if you can get him at the right price at something that's not ridiculous. Giving $15 million to Glennon, that would be ridiculous. If you're going to do that, you might as well get Tyrod. I mean, so it's at least Tyrod's Glennon's just played a couple games in the pros. Tyrod's been out there, has kind of a much better track record than Glennon does. So, but I mean, it could be one of anybody, man. There's I would almost, I said this the other day, I'm going to get murdered for this, but I would almost rather just give Geno Smith $1 million. And compete with,
I thought you were about to say bring back Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I was
getting ready to throw.
I was like, oh God.
No. I'm just saying, give. I don't know if Geno has any interest coming back here. He's been treated, but I would.
He doesn't.
If you want to bring back Geno, Geno and let him compete with Petty and Hackenberg for the starter job.
But is he even going to be healthy?
Compete.
Well, first off, one question at a time. Jay, do we even think he's going to be healthy by training camp? I don't even know if he's going to be ready for the preseason. I mean, he tore his ACL in October. I mean, Revis, I think tore it around that time. Revis tore it week 3, and for the Bucs, I mean, he wasn't back until, I guess, right around the week 1. So I mean, are you going to go through all your offseason with your quarterback on the sidelines. I mean, I don't know.
You're not. Don't take that as a Geno Smith endorsement. It's just I'm just saying that.
Well, no, I actually would be fine with Geno if he had not torn his ACL. But then again,
that type of contract though, where you give some veteran, $1 million, $2 million, some guy that would be a backup somewhere, that you bring him in and you let him compete.
Matt Moore.
With a lot more experience than a Petty and a Hack, just to kind of like, keep them honest. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so you don't just have like some guy that at least you can just throw in there. I don't know, man. It's not an ideal situation. It's just like our I was saying when you were gone, Ben. It's like I lost connection. We got to be realistic with our expectations of the Jets next year, and not try and like go all in like the Knicks always do or something with some patchwork nonsense where they're.
That's what Kyle wants. Kyle's.
How is it patchwork nonsense? Will we get a franchise cornerback and a quarterback?
No. Kyle was saying we should keep both Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. I mean, that's just.
Yeah.
Kyle, but are you going to have? Are you going to want Robbie Anderson to be your fourth-string wide receiver? What do you to gain?
I don't see him as the number one. I see him as the number two.
Neither do I. But Kyle, here's the thing: is you want these guys to be ready and be well experienced as starters by the time the Jets are ready to make a move. You play all your young guys. You see who's actually worth it, and then by the time 2 or 3 years from now, when the Jets are in playoff contention, those guys have been starting, and they're going to be at the peak of their game. Instead of having them sit behind two, I'm actually in favor of keeping Decker, but instead of having him, sit behind 3 guys, and then by the time the Jets are good, I mean, he's now becoming a starter. You know what I'm saying? The Jets need to clear all as much as it'll hurt to see Brandon Marshall cut by the Jets or Darrelle Revis cut by the Jets, or even guys like Nick Mangold or David Harris. It's what the organization needs to do. They made the Fitzpatrick decision based on emotion, and I'm afraid that they'll do it again this offseason with guys like Revis and Harris and Mangold, guys who have been so key to the organization. I don't think they should make the decision off of emotion. They have to make it based off paper. Those guys, do they have some stuff left in the tank? Maybe, but at the end of the day, it'll be more it'll help the team more when you're playing guys like Wesley Johnson, Justin Burris, Darren Lee over them, and Quincy Nunwa over them. That's just my opinion.
And not only that, but also from a fan's perspective, I think the fans would be much more excited to watch the young guys, kind of like I'm not a Yankee fan, but kind of like what the Yankees do this year, to watch the young guys go out there, show that they're developing, and go out there, and even if they go 6-10, that would be much more exciting to me than to watch the veterans come back, take up all the playing time, go 7-9 or 8-8, for an extra couple wins, and then where do you go from there? Then you wasted a whole year of development with these other guys that could have been on the field, because like I keep saying, the main goal should always be what's in the best interest of putting the best team together to win a Super Bowl within the next couple of years, not to just make the playoffs this year. And I know that's hard for Jet fans to accept. It's hard for me to accept even. You're paying all this money for tickets. You're going out to the games. You want to see wins. You want to see, but at the same time, I just think that it's more prudent and the right move if the goal is to win a Super Bowl. You have to be realistic and say, we're not winning a Super Bowl next year. Like, it's just not going to happen. The team is not ready to compete like that. So, that's why I'm saying, to me, I mean, it's Tyrod, guy, but even like what you were saying about Marshall and Decker and all of them and Mangold, we did the keeper cut last night on the NYJF TV, and most of the, I think Rob kind of agreed that Marshall and Decker will probably be back, and, but my take's a little different from there. I just think that, if you're going to bring back those guys, then you're not really in a full rebuild. You're doing what McCagnon was trying to do the last couple of years that didn't really work, where it was, a competitive rebuild, and we saw what happened this year. That doesn't really work. And then the veterans get pissed off because things aren't happening on the field, and you get this infighting in the locker room, and the coaching staff, they're coaching for their job, so they're going to put the veterans in there who give them the best chance to win that game, not what's best for the future, and you get a whole mixed message, and that's when you get your organization to complete disarray. I don't want to sign up for that. I'd rather them either go full rebuild or go all out, and they don't really have the tools to go all out right now, so it's kind of like forcing their hand. And
Jay,
for that reason, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, I cut you off there, but Jay, I mean, you're absolutely right here. The one thing that I've learned from watching this team for I don't even know how long it's been, 8 or 9 years or whatever, of like consistently watching every single game. The past 5 or 6 years, the Jets have taken half measures. They cannot take any half measures this offseason. They need to clean house. They need to invest in young guys. I'm fine with them bringing in younger free agents. And let's be honest, some people are like, well, that's what Idzik was trying to do. No. That was completely different. Idzik was not drafting well, first of all. The guys he was bringing in, like Dimitri Patterson and Mike Goodson, were not young guys to build around. I believe in Mike Maccagnan. I think the Jets can build a young team with Mike Maccagnan and Todd Bowles. And we'll see what happens. And maybe you never know. Maybe a team full of young guys can get the Jets to 9-7 or 10-6 to the playoffs. I'm not expecting it, but you never know. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, the starting trio of Sharon Peake, Quincy Nuno, and Robbie Anderson in Week 17, they played pretty well. They weren't bad. They might have been the best receiving core we'd had all season. I mean, they were constantly open, and Fitzpatrick was hitting them. We'll see what happens. Jay, really quickly before we let you go, I want to get your thoughts on a few things. Well, I believe we already got your thoughts on the Marshall versus Decker, but let's talk about Muhammad Wilkerson versus Sheldon Richardson. I'm assuming you have to get rid of one. Who is it and why?
Well, I mean, I think that realistically, Sheldon Richardson is tradable, and Muhammad Wilkerson really isn't with their contract situations. You can get something for, not going to get equal value for, but you can get something for Sheldon Richardson. I think that Muhammad Wilkerson also, I think that his injury, played a big part in his, there was a lot of discomfort there, I think that led to a lot of frustration, that led to a lot of his issues that he had this year. It's really easy, in retrospect, I dumped on him a lot this season, but, I think in retrospect, you kind of like, you form a lot of your takes as the season's going on, a lot of it's emotion. And then as the season ends, you get a chance to kind of look back and see like how everything unfolded and kind of break it all apart. And I think that really Mo Wilkerson kind of like, he was given a contract to help be one of the faces of the organization. One of the main faces. He's a local guy. He's up until this year, you never really heard any stories about him really kind of like, besides, missing some practices, you didn't really hear any stories about him being like a bad guy or anything like that. So I think that you got to bring back Mo. You sit him down in the off season, you tell him, listen, we're going to wipe the slate clean. We expect you, to come back much stronger than last year. I'm sure that he expects that of himself. And I think that much easier to clean up the issues with Mo and just kind of like, you get an off season, recharge the batteries, come back ready to go next year, and bring a brand new attitude for a brand new season. Sheldon, much different situation. I think that he was butting heads with Brandon Marshall. All of his off the field stuff, all of his, not that the Snapchat was that big of a deal, but like, when you add that on to, it's just more headache for the front office. I'm sure that they're just kind of like sick and tired of being, between the car, stuff with his car, and then, getting suspended a couple times for the drug, the drug test and all that stuff. I just think that like, I think that he's kind of run his course and kind of figured they're not going to pay him big money. I mean, that's just a fact, especially with the amount of talent they have on the defensive line. They're pretty well stacked there, and couldn't even figure out a way to get him in the game except to stick him at the linebacker, which is ridiculous. So I think he's gone. I can't see any way they come back with Sheldon coming into next year. I think that's a shame because a couple of years ago he was one of the best young up-and-coming defensive linemen in the league. I think that he's very much disappointed over the past 2 years. I think the team played, unfortunately, I know it's crazy to say with the level of talent that he has, I think they played better when he wasn't on the field. And, that doesn't discount his talent. I just think that sometimes in sports, and you see it all the time, guys just, a change of scenery is necessary both for the team and for the player. Can I see him going to a team like the Cowboys next year and really playing well and us kind of like saying, damn, that sucks. We really regret getting rid of him? Yeah, I can definitely see that, but I don't really see any other, way at this point. you can get rid of him, you can free up that money to go out and acquire some assets. Clearly we need to acquire. We need to make some moves to get as far under the cap as possible, start rebuilding and turning over this roster. So, being that I don't see him as a big part of the future on the Jets, I don't think he wants to be here. I don't think they want him here. I think he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where Muhammad Wilkerson, a lot of people are criticizing for last year. I don't. He was coming off of a very serious knee injury, and I think it's more likely that last year was a fluke than the other 4 years of dominance that he's had in his career. I think he'll return to form next year. And let's be honest, the Jets' defensive line played their best when only 2 of the 3 guys were active. I think just the system runs better when Todd Bowles and Casey Rogers weren't trying to cram them all onto the defensive line. I think it just works better when you have your 2 ends. You don't have to worry about a third guy. So Muhammad Wilkerson, Leonard Williams, and probably Deion Simon in the middle. I'm pretty excited about the defensive line. I think the Jets have a lot of young talent.
We're in good shape with that defensive line. I just don't. Isn't football kind of like, it's a weird game, man? It's like when he was suspended, when Sheldon was suspended, you kept thinking to yourself, like, in that first game, Sheldon was suspended for the first game, and they went out and they had 7 sacks or whatever they had against Cleveland. And you were like, oh, here we go. When Sheldon gets back, I mean, we had 7 sacks against a good team, and when Sheldon comes back, we're going to dominate. And we never had another game like that the rest of the season. And it's like, it's so weird how it is. It's like you would think that talent, you can just put talent on the field and, like, the more talented players you have, the better your team is going to be. And that's kind of like you figure the way it should be. But, sometimes, you don't need that embarrassment of riches on the defensive line. You have Leonard Williams, you have Mo Wilkerson. It's like when you start taking guys, you have more players for the position than you even need. So you start taking a guy like Sheldon and start playing him at linebacker. It's like, what are we doing here? See, my opinion was all season, I thought they would have been much better off, especially with Mo's, kind of like his leg obviously wasn't 100% all season. So like to me, instead of sticking Sheldon in at linebacker, like they should have just been rotating those guys in and out all game, keeping them fresh. And even if they weren't all on the field at the same time, at least you would have had fresh players coming in and out of the lineup and everything, and at least playing guys in their natural positions. But that wasn't the way Todd wanted to play it, obviously. I mean, they wanted everyone on the field at the same time, so they stuck guys out of position, and then it's funny because when you do that, it's just like in baseball. When you take, like, you have 2 catchers on the team, and they both get hit, so you put, one of the catchers in left field, and now what you have is, you're sacrificing defense for offense, and that never works out well. You just, like, and that's the way it is, in my opinion, in football. You take a guy and you put him out of position, you're confusing the defense, and in my opinion, you're much better off playing a linebacker than playing Sheldon Richardson at linebacker. Just because he's talented doesn't mean he's a linebacker. So it's like it didn't work, and it's a shame that it didn't work. But I think in retrospect, I bet you even Todd Bowles would say that he mismanaged that situation, and in retrospect, less plays for each player, but at least everyone is in their proper position would have been the right way to go.
Exactly, and maybe the Jets can get, a 4th or 3rd, 5th round pick for Sheldon. I mean, that's at least some more value that you could, spread the wealth on the team. And I think the Jets have a lot of young talent, especially at the receiver. Bilal Powell is a running back. They have some good pieces in the offensive line, defensive line, linebackers. I mean, it's a much different situation than 2014, even though it's totally about the same record and the same pick. But the Jets are much farther along in the process. That's why I think if the Jets rebuild in a year or 2, they can be a very good team. So that's why the Jets shouldn't. That's why the Jets shouldn't take a half measure and try to go for it now. They're not ready. If they wait a year, maybe 2, they can be a perennial team if they manage it correctly.
I agree. I mean, you just look at the bottom half of the roster here compared to the bottom half of the roster in 2014, and that Mac, a lot of people, it's amazing me. People want to fire Mike McCagnon, and then they look to me and they say, oh, well, you're the guy that supposedly chased John Idzik out of town. Why are you not doing the same thing with Mike McCagnon 2 years later? And the reason why is because Mike McCagnon has, shown us something. He's shown us that, he can bring in talent. It's like, did John Idzik bring in a couple guys? Sure. Anybody is that, if Ben, if you or Kyle or I were the general manager and we made 100 moves,
we would win.
5 of them work out? Sure. So, Idzik, he made some good moves, and you can't take those guys away. Good job on Brian Winters, good job on Quincy Enunwa, even though he cut Quincy Enunwa in this. We're lucky to still have him. But did he bring in a couple good guys? Did he bring in Decker? Yeah. Did he bring in, it was Chris Ivory a good trade? Sure. It was, he's not on the team anymore. It was a good trade. But if you look at his draft picks, I mean, the reason why the Jets were so barren and that they were so, that their roster is so poor and their special teams is so poor and stuff like that is because 19 draft picks in 2 years, you should have those guys, a good majority of those guys on your roster, competing and giving you minutes. And most of those guys, 14 of them or something, aren't even on the roster, and many of them aren't even in the NFL anymore 2 years later. So, I mean, Mike Maccagnan, you look at his draft picks, most of them are giving you minutes, and, you have guys who are showing promise, Brandon Shell, Justin Burris, like Lorenzo Malden, Jordan Jenkins, all across the board. And people want to just Darren Lee, but I mean, those are your first-round picks. You should hit on some first-round, most of your first-round picks. I'm talking about guys that they drafted further down the line.
Deion Simon. Yeah.
I mean, guys like that. So, he and even guys he's picked up through free agency, undrafted free agents like Jalen Marshall and Robbie Anderson and they drafted Sharon Peake and so everyone dumps on him for the Christian Hackenberg pick. And maybe rightly so, that might have been, quite a reach and but at the same time, he has drafted so much better than John Idzik has. And for people who are even making the argument that John Idzik drafted as well as he did is just, I think it's just like,
ridiculous.
Tweeting stuff just for the sake of tweeting and to get,
Oh, yeah.
Come on, girl, no. To the no.
Sorry, I just felt like that was appropriate.
Destroyed my ears.
Yeah, that was really loud for some reason. I mean, Maccagnan was obviously far superior to Idzik. It's not even close. I think Maccagnan has missed on Devin Smith and Christian Hackenberg, which has got and signed guys like Revis and went after Marshall and stuff. But those were good moves for last year. And you're right. I mean, look, how many picks has he had? The Jets have not had as many picks as Idzik had. The Jets have only, have been getting, 5 or 6 picks each year. Yeah. So, I mean, he probably has 10 or 12 picks, and 8 or 9 of them are still in the roster. I mean, he's doing a good job.
Yeah, and, I think it's also fair to say that, this was just one of those years, and you can blame Maccagnan for it, sure, but this was just one of those years that, and this will happen from time to time in sports, really, in any sport, with teams where, pretty much right off the bat, just whatever could have possibly gone wrong just went wrong. Nothing bounced our way. There were fumbles that would hit the ground that, would bounce right into opposing teams' hands. There's no way anyone could have predicted that you could have predicted that Marshall and Fitz and all these guys would have some drop-off. There was no way to predict they would have the kind of drop-off that they had. You would have if you would have told me before the season Nick Mangold wouldn't have played 8 games and Ryan Clady would be out for the season and they would be shuffling through all different offensive linemen and they would be going through Matt Forte would be injured and Eric Decker would be out for the season.
Revis would suck apparently.
Revis would. I mean, it was every single possible thing that could have possibly gone wrong before the season that we all talked about on all these podcasts. If this happens, we could be in trouble. If every single thing happened, and so it's you don't want to just write that off. I mean, there's definitely accountability that needs to go towards the GM, the head coach, and all that stuff. But when you get a season like that, man, sometimes you just need to kind of just realize that it just wasn't our year this year. Things happened, and there's no excuses to be made for that. But let's just kind of refocus, reset, and get it going for next year. And the beautiful thing about that is the way, and here's the other thing that Maccagnan did well, the way he structured all these contracts for the people that he signed, the veterans and the people he gave money to, except for Fitz, who's going to count $5 million against the cap, made it really easy to get out of all these contracts where he can now continue his rebuild, even though he went for it this year, technically, quote unquote, after, being, a couple minutes away from making the playoffs last year. Sure, he went for it, but he didn't go for it at the expense of our future. There's not really any contracts there that you're saying are such bad contracts that there's nothing you can do about it except maybe the Mo Wilkerson contract,
and even that may turn out to be a pretty decent contract if Mo comes back and becomes the Mo Wilkerson of 2015 instead of the Mo Wilkerson of 2016. So I think that I think that we're pretty good shape with Max. I like him. I'm not trying to just say that just to be a Mike McCagnon stan. It's not my style. I'm not saying that just because he's not John Idzik and people think that I should feel some sort of responsibility for chasing Idzik out of town. I'm saying that because I genuinely feel that he's done a pretty good job so far. Has he been perfect? Of course not. He hasn't been perfect. He's done some things that you wish he didn't do. But I think that, all the pieces are in place right now. If you don't do any half measures and you stick to your plan, where we can be a very good, very competitive contender within the next couple of years. Is it going to happen this year? Probably not. But, as long as we continue to draft, and put players in place and not give out ridiculous contracts to anybody and not make some, knee-jerk move like signing Tony Romo or something. I think that we
Please God no.
Please God no.
Yeah. I know. I think that we can be there soon. I don't think that it's going to happen tomorrow, but I think that if everyone stays a little bit patient, funny coming from me, I think that we can we can be back where we want to be.
Jay, great stuff as always,
wait.
man.
Jay, let's just be honest. You don't want to buy the billboards again, do you?
There's no need
to set that up, man. I didn't buy them. I mean, the fans were coming at me trying to get me to do fire McCagnon billboards, fire this billboard, fire that billboard. I'm not going to be doing any more billboards, man. We did it once. I don't want to. What I don't want to do is, and I think this is really important. I mean, you do that once, it's one thing. I don't want to be setting this. Making things any harder for the Jets to bring in, future talent in the front office or anything, where people are going to be like, well, this is the place where after 2 years, now they've done it twice in a row. After 2 years, if we don't win, then I'm going to have to be seeing billboards all over the place. I've learned from that, man. Are there some things that I wish we didn't do during the Idzik campaign? Sure. I think that things got a little carried away. I think that I was in a position back then where we had never done anything like that before. We were getting, they were reporting on all the stuff, everything that we did in the Daily News and in the Post and on ESPN.com and all over the place. And did we get a little carried away? Yeah, I think we did. And, there's some regret there for some of the stuff that we did because, as I've been down in Florham Park during training camp and stuff, and as I've talked to some of these guys, you realize they're human beings and you don't want to really make a guy wake up in the morning, dreading, seeing every report where the guy's just getting completely torn to shreds.
Yep.
I think John Idzik was a terrible general manager, and I don't feel bad that he was fired. I think that GMs of sports teams, they get fired. That every GM of every sports team is, in their lives have been fired, and I think that he was fired with cause. But I don't think that some of the stuff that we did was necessarily needed to be done. I think that we probably had a little more fun with it than what we should have. I think that and I don't want to be the face of any reason why people aren't going to want to come here in the future. And I think that if somebody would have put up some fire McCagnon billboards and flown planes and done all that stuff again, I think that it would become part of this toxic environment down here that I hate so much. And it's that's not what I want to be about, man. We do all kinds of positive stuff nowadays. I take a lot more joy in visiting kids in the hospital that have cancer with Pryor and in raising money for Project 375 and doing all kinds of stuff like that, where we can have a positive impact on and show the world that Jet fans aren't a bunch of clowns. So it's
going to be hard to do, Jay. I'm glad you're leading the initiative.
Well, look. Everyone can try, right? It's that's how it starts. Somebody's got to be the the face of some of the positive stuff. So, I still have some gripes and things that I would love to see changed in the front office and and stuff like that. But we try to do it in a more responsible way nowadays than kind of making such a big scene and doing all this stuff. I think that over the past couple of years also some of my priorities have changed where some things have become more important and less important. And people that come to me looking for me to, put up billboards and stuff like that. It's just, people got to know that's just not going to happen with me anymore. I mean, that doesn't mean that they can't go ahead and do it themselves, and that, I wouldn't think that, that I would knock it or anything like that. I mean, everyone has the right to voice their opinion in any way they see fit. This is America, but it's not going to be coming from me. This is not going to be doing that anymore.
Well, Jay, great stuff as always, man. Really quickly, give out all your information. As we were just talking about, you do some great stuff, and we're really proud to be in your network. When you go big time with Alex Giammo and Rob Carpenter and Fireman Ed, just remember us, okay? Promise us that. But give out all your information so our listeners can give you a follow.
Not a problem. And you know what's funny? I actually used to call her Alex Giammo myself until she corrected me. So
it's like Gimo.
Gimo.
Yeah.
So anyway, check out our show. I think that everyone would, everyone that hasn't seen it yet, they would really love it. I mean, Fireman Ed, Alex Gimo, Kevin Serkin, the primetime producer of Let's Talk Jets Radio, and Rob.
Don't you forget Kevin.
Yeah, we got Kevin on there. So and then also, like I said, Rob Carpenter. So we get the voice of a team reporter, an ex-player, Fireman Ed, who everyone pretty much everyone knows and loves, and then you get Kevin, who puts the whole show together, and he does a fantastic job. So I think that any Jet fan that checks that show out will definitely love it. It's one of my favorite things that we do on the site. I mean, all the podcasts, Talk Jets Radio, CNC Jets Factor, you guys do an amazing job, and all the articles that the fans write. We have Ron Pickett is putting up some. He's an amazing scout of talent, and he's been checking out all the players. Right now in the Senior Bowl, just put an article up on the site. It was really informative and awesome. It's a great read. So yeah, we're doing a lot of really good things. There's some T-shirts we're going to be coming out with for the new year. We're going to get some of the young guys on the shirts. So it's we got a lot of fun events coming up in the offseason. So definitely stay tuned to all of our stuff. We're at Jets Fan Media on Instagram and on Twitter, and also we're on Facebook at nyjetsfans.com. So just check all that stuff out. And if you guys, anybody wants to get in contact with us and has any ideas of, how they can help or be a part of it, we're always open for suggestions.
Jay, great stuff as always, man. We look forward to hearing from you. And we will make sure to have that Tyrod Taylor debate on Twitter in the near future.
Oh, we do.
I'm going to check out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the list of all the starting quarterbacks, and I'm going to point out which ones I'd rather have than Tyrod, and we'll go back and forth. It'll be fun.
Let's just keep it about football. No personal attacks, Kyle. I'm looking at you. All right, Jay. Thank you so much, man.
What's that for?
It's never personal. It's always Jets, man.
Thank you, Jay.
That's a lie.
That was Jay from NewYorkJetsFans.com, and we apologize to the callers who've been on for a long time. We will make sure everybody's going to get ample time. We'll go late if we have to. We only have 2 left, just Tyler and Ryan. One of those guys that he's so good and he's helped us out so much that we give him all the time in the world. He was on for, I think, 30 or 40 minutes, so we apologize to those callers who've been on for so long. Like this next one, Tyler, again, so sorry about the wait, man. Let's go find his theme song. It's somewhere here. Hold on, Tyler. You've waited long enough. I have to make sure I get this theme song right. Kyle, do you see the theme song? Because I don't. We have too many of these.
Wait,
things,
what's
man.
the song? What's the song?
We don't use we don't.
I'll
no,
sing it.
We're not gonna have.
What's the song?
No. I can't. Oh, there it is. Okay. This is Tyler, who's been on hold for like 2 hours now. Thank you so much, and he has some great takes. Let's listen to this nice hype song.
Black Sabbath.
Yeah, like Iron Man or something. Tyler, thank you so much for being on hold for that long, man. How are you doing, man?
Oh man, I'm about to sleep on that guy.
No, man. I mean, hey. You've been on hold for so long. You've been awesome. So let's just hop into the Jets. We're going to give you all sorts of time, and we'll go late if we have to. And then I think after Tyler we have Ryan, I believe. Yes, Ryan, and then we'll be done for the night. So Tyler, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the re-signing of Brian Winters. What are your thoughts on this whole thing? I think, in my opinion, I think it's big for the offensive line. What are your thoughts? And we'll just talk a little bit about this offensive line.
It was a good move, and it was a neutral amount of money.
Yeah, I actually thought, Kyle. Yeah, I have to talk about that. I mean, I think that was a pretty good deal by Mike Maccagnan. Yeah, I think if we had allowed Brian to hit the open market, I think he could have made.
He would have got much better.
I honestly think he could have made double than that. Like that was very smart by Mike Maccagnan to get him off the market as soon as possible. Now, Tyler, let's talk about the rest of the offensive line. What holes do you think the Jets need to address? Because some people think that the Jets should just go in with Brandon Shell, Wesley Johnson, Brian Winters, and James Carpenter as their starters, and then only fill the left tackle. Are you of that train of thought, or do you think the Jets need to find a right tackle and find a center and et cetera?
I think they need to start off with like a right tackle, a pass rusher, a quarterback, and a defensive back.
Okay. No, on the offensive line though, what positions do you think they should target?
Left tackle. You know, Breno is getting
cut.
He's gonna get cut, and we need to start building on that right tackle spot.
Yeah, and I also think you could probably see Clady and Mangold going. Now, Tyler, one of the positions. Kyle, it's like the third time you sung it, and it's just...
The second time? Okay.
Dude, just get the soundbite. Nobody wants to hear you sing.
All right,
now, Tyler...
I'll go get it.
All right, Tyler, let's talk about the tight end position. How do you think the Jets should address this position in the offseason? Do you think Austin Seferian-Jenkins is the man for the job for the Jets, or do you think they should try to target some guy in the draft or free agency?
I think ASJ is the guy, and we need to address tight end in the draft, maybe like 5th round.
Okay, well, I think you're in luck if you really want to go draft a tight end this year, which I do think Austin Seferian-Jenkins is a guy we should stick with. I think he needs to learn the offense before we could truly judge him, and also needs to get healthy, and also need to find an offensive coordinator that will use a tight end. So there were some 3 big things going against him this year. Regarding the tight end position this year, it's fairly deep. I mean, we got some guys who you can get in like the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round who could probably come in and be starters for a lot of teams day one. The obvious ones off the top of my head, Jake Butt, he has an ACL injury though right now, so he might fall a little bit in the draft. He's still a phenomenal player. David Njoku, I probably just murdered his last name. He's an extremely athletic tight end from Miami. Not sure if he's a football player yet. A freak athlete, though, as I said. Jeremy Sprinkle from Arkansas. Jordan Leggett from South Carolina. And the list goes on and on for the tight end class this year, and I'm probably forgetting a couple other guys. I know there's a guy from Virginia Tech.
So where, Kyle, where would you target a tight end?
I'd probably go for 4th or 5th round.
Interesting. All right, well, kind of continuing. We had started with what would we what position on the offensive line would we address? Kyle, I'm going to ask this to you first. We've agreed that pretty much we think the Jets should stick with Carpenter, Winters, Wesley Johnson, and Shell for now, just because they're a young team. But the left tackle, Kyle, who do you think the Jets should try to replace it? I don't think the Jets should draft in the 1st round, but it could be something they could address in 2nd or 3rd round. However, I'm more of a guy who likes to address the left tackle position, or left tackle, the offensive line position group in free agency. And then Tyler, I'll ask you this. My personal guy is the Redskins' backup left tackle, I'm murdering this. It's like Niske, no, it's like Neske or Nishke. He was when Trent Williams went down, he started, and basically, I mean, if you even look up his name or just look up Redskins backup left tackle, it'll probably give you more accurate search results. I mean, he could start on over half of the NFL teams. He did a tremendous job filling in for Trent Williams, and he's going to get some money during the offseason. He's very young. I think he's only 23 or 24 or something. So again, my whole theme for this offseason is go young. Kyle, I'll go to you next. Do you have any particular guy in mind? And then we'll go to over to Tyler and see if he has any guys he'd like to target.
Ben, correction, he's 31 years old, so don't know how young that is for a left tackle in this league.
Let's make sure we're the same guy. Hold on. You can talk.
Yeah, Ty Nitschke, Washington Redskins. Really, there's not really a left tackle answer. The draft, I think it would be a huge reach at number 6 for either Cam Robinson or Ryan Ramczyk, and then the best tackle by far in free agency would be Andrew Whitworth.
No, never mind. Yeah, sorry, you were right. My bad. I apologize for that. So I read an article, and they're like a nice young left tackle. And I was like, oh, okay. 24, 25, no, 31. So never mind. I rescind that offer. Kyle, sorry, I cut you off there. Continue.
Yeah, I don't really know what we're going to do here with the left tackle position. To be honest, we're either going to overpay for a below-average free agent, or we're going to overpay for an old free agent who could probably do good for like 2 years in Andrew Whitworth, or we're going to reach on a guy who's either athletic and is probably a right tackle in the NFL in Cam Robinson, or Ryan Ramczyk, who's a road grader but struggles with his feet and will probably get beat off the edge pretty quickly by most defensive ends in the NFL. So I hate to be, the pessimist here, but there's not a lot of great left tackles.
All right. Now, Tyler, Kyle's for some reason laughing. Tyler, who would be your top 3 guys you would want the Jets to go after in the offseason? So in the draft or free agency, 3 guys who, if the Jets got them, that would make your offseason. I'll give my 3. I think, obviously, I love Melvin Ingram. I think he's very talented, and I think the Jets should have drafted him over Quentin Copeles. I like A.J. Boye from the Texans, or Tremaine Johnson. That's kind of a wash, but I'll give it to A.J. Boye. And third, I'm caught here because there's so many I think I could go for.
You're missing the biggest one.
Well, I could go to Tyrod Taylor, or I'm also thinking DeShone Kizer.
Boy.
So I think it's very close.
How is that close?
I'll give it to Tyrod just because I don't think the Jets should target another QB.
Tyler, what is your take on that?
I would take what position though?
Just your top 3 for the offseason to complete your offseason.
Tyrod.
Okay.
Like a cornerback. I don't know who. I haven't targeted that much in free agency. And more of like a defensive tackle.
All right, Tyler. Well, I definitely agree with you with Tyrod Taylor and definitely agree with you with the corner. Don't know how much I agree with you there on the defensive tackle because I think we have an abundance of talent on the defensive line as it is. But, Tyler, we're running out of time here, so we're gonna have to let you go. Why don't you go ahead and give us all your social media and all your information so our fans know where to find you?
I'll start with my Twitter. My Twitter is at thejettake96. I also have an Instagram. Yes, I have an Instagram. It's at thejettake96, the same thing. I also have Snapchat, lowercase thejettake96. And thank you.
All right, Tyler, thanks for being on.
All right.
All right, Ben, I think we're just going to keep trotting along here because we're kind of running low on time, and we're going to go on to our last caller of the night. And
Whoa. What are you doing?
I'm taking over.
No,
Ben,
Kyle.
you seemed a little busy digging.
No, Kyle. Hold on. This is my job, bro. Your dog. Dude, can you put your dog down now? I mean, it's just old. It can't.
That's so mean.
Okay. You want to know? This is how half the episode was at the start. It was just,
yeah, I don't know.
And then you kicked it out, and it's just what? Like,
I
dude,
can't control that.
Just kill it. Like, what? Put it down.
I'm not going to make a joke about your mother feeling that way, too.
Whoa. You just did.
Yeah.
You just said it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
See, this is why I wanted
Kyle,
to
I don't Kyle, I think we're going to have to we're going to cut you from the show. It's my decision. I think the team's going to move in a different direction. We're going to go with younger. I think we're going to go with David. I think we can build.
Who is younger than my voice? I literally sound like an 11-year-old.
That is a good point. That is a good point.
You can't get much younger. Yeah.
Well,
right,
let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and bring on. No, Kyle, stick to your job. Trust the process. By the way,
you just got beat by the 76ers.
That my favorite basketball team, the Trailblazers, just got
beat
by the 76ers by 1 point. I was watching the game for a little bit, but Kyle was too busy dealing with his mentally challenged dog. Kyle was too busy dealing with his mentally challenged dog, so I couldn't watch it.
Put out this poll. What is worse, Ben missing the show because he was watching his
I wasn't missing the show, though. I had it on in the corner.
76ers
Kyle, and let's be honest, I couldn't even watch it because you were dealing with your mentally challenged dog who, like...
I was trying to make the show better, Ben, and you would keep yelling at me, no, don't put her on.
Dude, you were trying to... Okay, this is completely ridiculous. Let's go ahead and bring on Ryan. Let's go ahead and bring on Ryan. Ryan, welcome to the show. It's kind of crazy. Quick poll for you, Ryan. What is worth, Kyle's dog just panting into the mic like... or me just having the Blazer game on my phone in the corner of the room?
No, I was trying to get my dog out of the room, but Ben wouldn't let me because he was too afraid to run the show. Ben, we have the text right here. We have the text.
Kyle, please post it. I literally said, Kyle, get your dog out of your room or put it down. Yes, Kyle. Okay, well, hold on. We'll do that later. Anyways, Ryan, let's talk some Jets. Kyle.
Right there.
Oh, no, I'm posting it on Twitter. Ryan, let's talk some Jets. Sorry, you're joining a very crazy
episode. All right, no problem.
This is what happens on Friday.
Even the best class I see.
Well, let's just hop right into it. Let's talk a little bit about the offensive line. That's what we were talking about. Who do you think the Jets should try to target for the left tackle? Even if it's not a specific name, do you think they should try to go through the draft or free agency? And Kyle, my computer's about to die, so I'm going to go grab a charger. So, Kyle, you're actually going to have to take over. But you two just talk about the offensive line. I'm being serious. I actually have a reason, not my mentally challenged dog.
That's the reason.
Dude, you just said, okay, we'll talk after the show. Anyways, Ryan, how should the Jets try to address the needs on the offensive line?
Well, I think the biggest need is obviously the left tackle. And Kyle hit it on the nail earlier. The draft really isn't. There's no, I don't think, real solution. Not of like this year at least. They both have question marks, especially Cam Robinson. Their feet, it scares me coming to the pros. And when you're looking for agency, there really isn't anything that special outside of maybe Whitworth. But then again, Whitworth is 35 years old, I believe. So yes, he might work for a year or two, but which I wouldn't mind obviously if we had to. He's still very good, but how many productive years are you going to get out of him? It just feels like another Band-Aid. And by our luck recently, he'll get injured or his production will drop. So, but it's going to be tough, but we're going to have to find something because we definitely can't deal with Benny Gelano again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we saw that experiment play out to its lowest possible level results going into what we were hoping for the year. But worst comes to worst. Who on the team would you retain to fill this left tackle spot? Because, we've gone over all the possible acquisitions, and none of them have been spectacular. So who would you try to keep on the team, like Reno Giacomini, Ryan Clady, unfortunately Ben Ijalana?
Well, definitely not Reno Giacomini. He should have been gone last year. Clady, you can at the salary currently, obviously, $10.5 million, I believe. No way he's coming back at that. I wouldn't mind bringing him back if you're giving him like a $2, maybe $3 million per year, and that's it on a one-year deal because obviously, his health can't be trusted. But I think he'd be at least serviceable for 1 year. Obviously, he's not going to be elite anymore, and he couldn't even stay healthy this year. But the free agency class is that bad, and the draft the amount of talent in other positions. I don't think it's worth investing in some of these question marks. So you might have to just stick with Clady, and unfortunately that's where we're at right now.
So we're going to have to settle, like most men in their 40s.
Yeah, but, I mean,
what?
Realistically...
I came back, and it's just, we're going to have to... Kyle, this is why you're not the host of the show. What? I didn't even... I don't know the context. I just heard we're going to have... No, I did not even hear the context, so it might have been funny. I put on my headphones, and it's just, we're going to have to settle like most 40-year-old men. I'm like... Okay.
We were talking about the left tackles.
Yeah, we were talking about how all the options are extremely poor for the left tackle position.
Right.
And I made I made the point that we're going to have to settle.
Hey, Kyle, guess what? Check your messages because I think I might have
go
just
check
taken screenshots.
Twitter. Hey,
I
Ben,
did. Kyle,
yeah.
your tweet just proved my point. I said get her out of the room.
It did not say get her out of the room in my tweet.
Really? Let's go ahead and read it. It says,
I said,
no, Kyle, dude, that was way better. Don't bring her back. Like, don't bring her back in the room. 2 barks in 3 minutes is way better than her just panting into the mic. I don't know how that.
Yeah, but I said I gotta go get her again because she was outside of my door barking, and I had to go put her out. And you
No. You said you didn't show the top. You were like, I gotta go get her because he wanted to bring her back in the room.
No, I didn't want to bring her back in the room. I wanted to put her out. That's where she is now.
Ryan, do you see this? He's a pathological liar. Let's look up. Hold on. Let's look up. This isn't even. This is
point guard, right?
Yeah. Okay. Ready? Here we go. It says. What he says. What are we doing? Let's just talk Jets. I'm going to find this while we talk Jets. Ryan, let's talk a little bit about something that actually matters. I mean, it's January, and there's not much to talk about, so we get off on weird tangents. And this is what happens when you're the last caller of the night. Let's talk a little bit about Let's talk a little bit about this defensive line. We got into a little bit with Jay with the whole Muhammad Wilkerson versus Sheldon Richardson. It seemed how they played better when they were only 2 of the 3 were playing. Out of Muhammad Wilkerson versus Sheldon Richardson, everybody, including myself, has said Muhammad Wilkerson. I'm not sure what Kyle's take is. But who do you think the Jets should move on from? Muhammad Wilkerson or sorry, let's rephrase it. Who do you think the Jets should keep? Because everybody said keep Muhammad Wilkerson. Muhammad Wilkerson or Sheldon Richardson?
Before I answer this, the last caller, TJ, I think I started laughing out loud when he said, when you guys brought up the 3 needs, and he said a defensive tackle. I was drinking water. I almost spit it out.
Let's just draft another defensive end. 5 in like 7 years or whatever it is.
That's the Jets, thinking logic. So don't be surprised. But in all seriousness, I think you got to keep Muhammad Wilkerson. I said, back in the offseason that I did think Sheldon's more talented. I still definitely do. It just the guy's a head case. He can't be trusted, and you already invested in Muhammad Wilkerson long term, and getting out of his contract is worse for us this year because we have a huge dead cap hit, and it's honestly I think Muhammad will return to form next year. I think it was obviously it was a bad year for him, whether he was hurt or just it was that bad of a year for the whole entire team in general. That has downgraded his play. But I think he'll return to at least hopefully 10 sacks next year. Hopefully forms a dominant duo with Leonard, because that's really what we need. So Sheldon can't be trusted, and you gotta keep Mo.
That nickname, the dominant duo.
Well, okay.
I'm taking that before Jay does.
We could go dynamic duo. What happened to the Sons of Anarchy? They really got just destroyed when Harrison, and now we're gonna lose Sheldon Richardson. Anyways, but let's keep moving on. We'll talk a little bit about the secondary. How do you think the Jets are going to address that position in the offseason? Because, I think we talked to you about last week about how to get rid of Marcus Gilchrist. So it's like, who do we play? Free safety, the corners, that's all mixed up of who's going to be the starter. So what combination do you see happening here? What type of secondary do you think we'll see next year?
Well, if I was in charge, it would be a whole new one. I would trade Pryor away, like I said last week. I like Pryor as a guy, but I don't know. He just doesn't seem like a long-term solution. And I said that I asked you guys the same question last week. Are we really going to extend him in the future? And my answer is probably no. At least not to like a big contract. I don't think he's that good of a player, unfortunately. Marcus Gilchrist obviously didn't have a great year either. I would move on from him, save the cap. I love Darrelle Revis, everything he's done for the Jets, but his time has come, and I think we need to move on. Buster Street, I can't stand. This penalty machine.
Thank you.
The guy always holding needs to go. And Marcus Williams.
In the slot, guys. Come on.
No, I'm done with Buster. He's always behind the guy. He's always holding.
Buster's a
Get rid of him. Yeah, that's basically what. And anyone who signed from the Browns, you should know. But
if the Browns,
we probably shouldn't sign free agents from the Browns.
Let you go.
Yeah.
If the Browns let you willingly walk,
yeah.
There's a problem. There's a problem there.
Buster cares more about his hair than covering somebody on the field. And Marcus Williams, I like.
I think his barber takes better angles than he does, to be honest.
There you go. Marcus Williams, I like him. But he can't tackle, so I wouldn't even mind moving on from him. But he definitely can't be relied on as like a number 1 or 2. That's for sure. We learned that this year. So hopefully in the off season, what I would like to do is rather get my personal guy would be the guy from Houston, AJ Boye. That's how you pronounce it. I really like him. I think he could be he's a rising star in the league. We're gonna have to pay for him, but I think that's kind of worth the investment. That would be nice. I heard pairings at safety since I talked about getting rid of Gilchrist and Pryor. I heard that maybe Tony Jefferson and Todd Bowles reunion. I definitely wouldn't mind that. Jefferson's pretty good in coverage. He's not elite or anything, but he'll definitely be an upgrade, and he's solid back there. It'll be nice to actually cover a tight end for once. And in the draft, I'm personally looking at a guy like, it depends what we do at safety, but you can't really go wrong with Jamal Adams or Malik Hooker. I think then you start building a very nice secondary.
I think you could definitely go wrong with Malik Hooker. I think he's like a 3rd round.
I like him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, what?
Wow.
Did you say Malik Hooker's a 3rd round pick, Kyle?
I've heard Ed Reed comparisons to Hooker, and I've seen him play. And
dude,
I don't think his tackling's the best, but that guy's a ball.
Yeah, he can't.
Kyle. Yeah, but Kyle, he's not going to go in the 3rd round. Okay, this was worse than your dog panting stance.
Well, we'll see what type of player he becomes. But
yeah,
I mean, honestly, personally, I wouldn't mind taking Hooker. Sorry,
yeah. So Ryan, what's? Oh, hold on, Kyle. Now, Ryan, would you be opposed to the Jets taking offense? Because I mean, you would think after all the times the Jets have drafted defense that they would just have a dominant, complete defense, but it really don't. Yeah. I mean, the secondary has a lot of needs. The linebackers can even use work. For me, I think the Jets don't. I mean, well, they are the Jets, so they get this opportunity a few times, but there's not many times you get a chance to pick, around the top 5. That's where you get your franchise players. I've said numerous times. That's when you get your Odell Beckham Jr., your Ezekiel Elliott, etc. Your Antonio Brown, your Jersey. Actually, Antonio Brown was not a top pick, but your Jersey selling player. So I think for me, I want a skill player. I want a sexy position. For me. I haven't made my decision yet on the running backs. I'm kind of torn. I have to watch some more film. But Leonard Fournette or Dalvin Cook, I think if the Jets could add one of those guys, I know Bilal Powell's solid, but I don't trust Bilal for 16 games. And it's one of those things where if you get a very dominant running back who's just unstoppable, your entire offense is that much better. Look at the Jets in 2009, 2010, and I know the comeback will be, they had a much better offensive line. So I think if the Jets can build their offensive line in free agency and in mid-late rounds of drafts, and then maybe go after one of those running backs, that offense combined with the wide receivers won't need that good of a quarterback. Bryce Petty could honestly lead them to a good amount of wins if they work on that offensive line. But if they don't, I'm fine with Bilal Powell. Obviously I want Deshaun Kaiser, but I at this point it's like you drafted. I don't know if you draft him at 6 because it's like you drafted Bryce Petty 2 years ago. So that if you draft Deshaun, you're giving up on Bryce for sure. You just drafted Christian Hackenberg last year. He hasn't played a snap, so you're giving up on him for sure. So it's like I feel like the Jets are kind of in a corner, and can't really draft him.
The thing is, I mean, if they didn't play Hackenberg in this type of season, I know he wasn't supposed to be ready for 2-3 years, but after the season we just had, you tell me he couldn't play Week 17 against Buffalo? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not writing him off, but it just seems like, I mean, realistically, I think that the Jets noticed throughout the year, and obviously since we weren't giving him reps, that he's just not going to be the guy, honestly. And you got to just call it out. You made a mistake. You're not going to get a lottery pick on every single draft. So I mean, I wouldn't go on that logic. If I was the GM like Mac and Bowles. And, obviously their jobs, they're on the hot seat, so I would not rely on one of these guys, especially, I mean, Petty didn't really show me anything to tell me, or like to, put all the cards on the table for him, and back him. He didn't really show me that much. I mean, he showed me, like, grit and some other nice things, but nothing to show me he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. So, really, if I'm going into this offseason, I'm looking for a quarterback, at least a stable one for now. If you're not going to get the elite guy, just get someone like Tyrod. I mean, I like Tyrod. I wouldn't call him elite, but it'd be such an upgrade from what we had. It'd be crazy. And I do agree with you guys when you guys were talking to Jay earlier. I have him right around that 15 range category.
Yeah, and he's a guy. I mean, we talk about the importance of the run game, and with this team, it's going to be important. I mean, he's a guy that doesn't throw very many interceptions and improves the productivity of your run game by so much. So it's one of those things where if the Jets really have an opportunity to get him, I would totally go after him. All right, well, Ryan, thank you so much for calling in, man. We apologize you were on hold for so long. It's just when Jay calls in, he's the GOAT. We have to get him on for so long. Ryan, anything else?
Though, before I go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Sorry, what's one last thing? Earlier in the show, I heard you guys talking about Brandon Marshall and Decker. Which one should you keep or gone? I actually agree with Kyle. I think you got to keep both. And listen, here's the reason why. This is the only reason why I would get rid of Marshall. If he actually is a locker room problem, which he has been on previous teams, and we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, then you got to get rid of him. If he's that cancer in the locker room, I totally agree, and we'll find out come March. But I mean, Jet fans, I think they're really forgetting what type of season he had last year, something we've never seen before. The guy put up 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, and when Decker was there by himself, he wasn't as good. I think that Decker and Marshall make a very good duo. They were probably the best in the league in 2015. I think people are forgetting that just because of this type of season we had. But going back to that, listen, I like all our young receivers, but I don't think they'll be up to the challenge yes, they played pretty good against Buffalo, but Buffalo really have, sloppy defense, nothing special. So I think that still need time, and they definitely can't be proven as number one. So I think that having Decker and Marshall there will just help them, honestly, down the line.
Yeah, no, and as much as I respect your argument, I will say, though, but by saying, 2 years ago he had such a great year, you could make that argument with Darrelle Revis. Like, whoa, wait, why should we cut him? 2 years ago, he had 9 turnovers. You know what I'm saying? Like, although I believe Brandon Marshall was definitely hurt by the quarterback, incompetence, I still think it's like the Jets, they need to start getting rid of players a year too early instead of too late. The Jets seem to run guys into the ground. So as far as Marshall, I definitely won't be upset if he returns. I love me some B. Marsh, but at this point, in a rebuilding year, I mean, and Decker was not bad when he was just by himself. Decker was not bad when he was just by himself. But anyways, Ryan,
he wasn't.
Go ahead. Kyle, he had 8 touchdowns. What are you talking about?
I don't know if the Jets are going to go into a rebuilding mode, because this is New York, so we don't really usually do things typically that we're supposed to do. But looking at it again,
no New York team is good right now.
I'm not saying we could do something like the New York Giants, but you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you. What's the saying? You're never as bad as you think you are, or whatever. I don't know.
That's a lie. Like that. That's a lie.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty bad, and we're worse.
And Kyle is like, it's not a rebuilding year.
Bad, but listen, if you do, the Giants are very bad last year. Their defense was historically bad. They picked up 3-4 guys in free agency. I know, free agency isn't the way you're typically supposed to go, but if you actually sign the right guys and not guys who are 30 years old and who already played their best ball, if you actually get guys like, Damon Harrison, those type of characters in your locker room who will play for you, you can fix things pretty quickly. Don't get me wrong, the Giants still have other needs, but the turnaround the defense has had in 1 year is pretty crazy and remarkable.
All right, well, Ryan, great stuff, man. Go ahead and give out your Twitter information so our listeners can give you a follow.
Thank you guys for having me on. My Twitter handle is NY_JetsNation98. Have a good night,
All right, man. Hey, thank you, man. And that was Ryan. Really quickly here, we're going to go and bring on our trivia question in a second. All right, Kyle. Just because I'm compulsive, let's just read the text message chain. We might have to bleep. No. We might have to bleep out some stuff because that's what happens when you talk to Kyle. So Kyle, for some reason, we're going to be honest, Kyle, because this is the way you want to play it. Kyle leaves in the middle of the episodes a lot of times. Now, I understand that was for your dog. He was like fixing. I don't know what the heck he was doing.
She barks nonstop, man.
Yeah, no. So wait, what do you do when you leave though? You just closing your mouth?
No, she can't walk. So she can't walk.
She can't walk.
No, I have to lift.
Laughing.
Yeah, Ben, you're kind of being a jerk right now by yelling at me for trying to make the
animal?
show. Basically, yes.
Wow.
How much she
That's depressing. Okay,
yeah,
so
no,
he left. Really he left, and I had no idea what he's talking about. And I said, "Come back." I said, "You leave for so long," and he said, "Sorry, my dog was going crazy." So at this point, we're all good. Kyle wasn't asking any questions, so I basically said, "You got to ask some questions, man." And I said, "Okay, Kyle, you got to stop leaving." And he said, "Ben, I can't. She won't stop." So at this point, I'm like, "Oh, he's dealing with his dog." And I said, "Okay, well, it's very annoying." And he was like, "I don't care."
No. Don't skip the part where you say, "Oh, I'm doing all the work at this."
Yeah, no, Kyle. I mean, I am. We're just jumping to the relevant parts. I said, yeah, because Kyle, you were gone for like 20 minutes. He said, "I don't care. You said, I'd rather have me not saying anything than her panting 24/7. I said, "Dude, put her in a different room." So there's exhibit number 1 that I said. And I said, then you sent me a photo of her, and Jesus, she looks depressing.
Yeah, she is. It's extremely.
And I said, okay. I said, "Dude, okay, kick her out of your room."
Effing room.
Yes. Thank you, Kyle, for clarifying. Nobody could have picked it up. And stop leaving. There's some other stuff. Ask questions for it, whatever. Said, and then you started talking. Whatever. It's not important. But and then I even said thank you for kicking her out. So then again I said kick her out of your room. Not that hard. Or kill her. My bad there. Kyle. So Kyle, don't say that you were like, well, Ben said I shouldn't go and get her out of the room. Yeah, no. I even said her panting her barking twice in 3 minutes is way better than her going. So, anyways, we settled that argument. Let's really quickly before we go to the trivia question, Kyle, why do you think this isn't a rebuilding year again? It feels like again you don't have the patience to rebuild, but you do realize in order to be a team like the Packers or the Patriots or the Raiders, any of those teams. Well, actually, the Raiders aren't really proven yet, but they have the right foundation to be one of those young, promising teams that is consistently winning. The Jets have to rebuild. All those teams went through some sort of rebuild at some point. The Patriots did it a long time ago and then fell.
70s.
Not in the 70s. In the 90s, right before Drew Bledsoe, they were building their team with Drew, and then all of a sudden Drew got injured right around when they peaked, and Tom got in, and they took him to the next level. And they've stayed at that level for a while. You could look at any great team, they've had a rebuilding year. Even the Packers, in the post-Brett Favre era, they went 6-10 first year with Aaron Rodgers because they were rebuilding for the future. So, Kyle, the Jets have to rebuild. It sucks that the Jets will probably have another losing year. It's very depressing to say the Jets will probably suck and have another losing year next year, maybe the year after that. But you have to realize for the good of the order, the Jets can maybe be a Super Bowl team in a few years. All right, that's just my take. Kyle, anything else before we go to David for the trivia question?
Ben, what do we really have to rebuild besides quarter, corner, and left tackle? I mean, everything else is kind of like depth, really. And honestly, you sign Tyrod Taylor, there's your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, a young player who's a difference maker in this league. You either draft a corner at number 6, which is something we haven't really talked about. There are fantastic corners in this draft. There's like 10 dudes who could probably come in and be starters for us in this draft. And that's not even talking about Tremaine Johnson or A.J. Boye.
Kyle, this isn't Madden, though. You do realize that, right?
Ben,
it's not just, you sign that player, you draft that player, you draft this guy in the second round, he'll fall, you sign Tyrod Taylor for this. Like, it's not Madden. It's a lot more complicated than just saying we'll bring all these guys in. First off, I don't think A.J. Boye is getting away from the Texans. First of all, I don't even think Tyrod Taylor is getting away from the Bills. If they do, they're going to command top dollar. They're going to want to go to a perennial winner and make a lot of money. So that's the Jets don't really have either. The Jets do have some money, but you do realize
a lot of money.
No. So $55 million. No, $55 million sounds like a lot, but that's good for 19th in the league, Kyle. It's maddening to me for us to say, well, we'll sign A.J. Boye. We'll say, like, I want those guys. I want Melvin Ingram. I want Tyrod Taylor. I want A.J. Boye. But the likelihood that we'll get any of those three is very slim. So that the whole point, Kyle, is it's not Madden. You don't just click, sign player. Like, I don't think any of those guys are coming to us. All right. Well, let's move on. David, let's see if David is ready for the trivia question of the night. We will also post this on Twitter. We'll give our answers live, but judging that we have almost 700 Twitter followers, a good portion of those aren't listening live right now, so we'll let them compete for whoever thinks they're right. David, let's unmute him. Do you have the trivia question ready?
Yes, I do have the trivia question ready, right. And here it is.
Hands up.
Will Kyle's dog stop panting? True or false?
No.
We'll talk about this later. But anyhow,
how soon will Kyle's dog die?
Ben, put your...
Anyhow, here's the trivia question of the night. In 2009, when Mark Sanchez came in for his first career start, he threw his first touchdown pass against New England Patriots.
I got it.
Who was the wide receiver who caught it?
No. It was against the Houston Texans, and it was Chancey Stuckey.
Yeah,
in his first game.
Correct, Kyle.
Well, dude, it's whoever the first one is. Yeah, no, it's whoever answers it first gets it. No, yeah, and then against the Patriots the following week, he threw to Dustin Keller, he threw to Jericho Cotchery, but no, his first ever touchdown pass was a nice 30-year.
You're correct. We get it.
Hey, nobody knows these trivia facts like me. We'll go ahead and post that on Twitter, and we'll see how many people can get that right. All right, guys. Well, I think that'll do it for another episode of the Jet Take. Even though David and Kyle, we can. All right. Even though David and Kyle are mad at me for making fun of Kyle's dog. Kyle, I love your dog, but just if we can put a muzzle or something on it. Okay. Whoa. We don't need to.
Definitely against the law in Florida. Just saying.
All right. Well, maybe just. Why don't we just pick it up and put it in another room? How about that?
Because then she barks because she's afraid.
Well, but can you just put it the other side of the house? Your dog has dementia?
Yes, Ben. She has no idea what's going on. Why do you think she barks? Why do you think she barks 2 feet away from my door? Because she has no idea what's going on, and she can't lift herself up anymore, Ben.
That's actually pretty depressing.
You.
That's pretty depressing. I feel bad now. All right. Well, I apologize. Anyways. That'll do it for another episode. Now Rumi's DMing us.
Yeah, Rumi, you tell him.
Well, it was so irrelevant. It's just because it's
You're the
January.
Eric Allen of the show,
we've spent 20 minutes talking about this dog. Let's wrap up the show. Thank you so much to all our listeners. I promise we most likely will not talk about Kyle's dog for 90% of the episode next time. Thank you so much. You can follow us at the Jet Take on Twitter, Instagram, iTunes, YouTube, anything, pretty much everything and anything. Mr. Fahey, any last words?
Woof.
Relevant. And big thank you again to our primetime producer. He's the younger Kevin. David, at Gangrene David 1 on Twitter. He's at Gangrene David on YouTube. He's an awesome dude. Next time we're going to get him on and he can actually talk some Jets for 20 minutes with us. He has been doing some work on Twitter, so everybody make sure to go give his Twitter a follow at Gangrene David 1 as Rumi's going to call PETA against me. And we will see you guys next week. What? All right, we will leave you guys with the best chant in the National Football League. Talk to you guys next week. Maybe we'll have an offensive coordinator, so we won't have to talk about Kyle's dying dog. Thank you so much, and talk to you guys next Wednesday.